blessed with a championship prosperity the likes of which we have never seen, cursed by a past riddled with despair. This is Blursed.
Welcome to episode 5 of Blursed, the Atlanta podcast that looks into the blessed and the cursed of all Atlanta sports. I'm your host, Hayden Cummins. Thanks for joining me. Today is Wednesday, July 27th, 2022, and I'm joined alongside my good friends, Kais and Bleezy Blake, and everything else. What's up, fellas?
Not much, man. We're just excited to get episode 5 underway here. What does it seem like 5 weeks have gone by since we've started this? It's crazy, right?
It's pretty crazy. Like the fact that we're over a month into this, it feels like just yesterday we talked about it feels like years ago we talked about doing it. But when we roped Hayden into the mix and he made us actually do something about it,
Yes.
It feels like literally just yesterday we were talking about what should we name our podcast. And then,
Well, I was just so bored at work, and Aaron and Blake had talked so long about this podcast, so I just started nagging the hell out of them. It's like, hey guys, I need something else to listen to.
Yeah.
And then had a little fire in me to get them going, and then they invited me to join the fold, and
Boom,
yeah,
here we are.
The funny part
that's
about that
history
is,
now.
as soon as you said that to us, I immediately texted Kai's, and I think he was about to text me, and I was like, I really do think it's a good idea if we just brought Hayden in. And Kai's like, yeah, I was going to say the same exact thing.
Yes.
Oh, I'd like to see the text. Aaron was like, I don't know. I don't know about Hayden.
Fuck that. Okay.
No, I think it took. I actually think it took so long to start because he's like, me and you, Blake, just us two.
That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound good. But no.
I think with just you two guys, it would be like first take. You just be
gosh,
arguing
it would.
all the time.
It would. Yeah.
That makes me so ready for football season, though.
An episode would be like
yes.
3 hours long, and it would. I don't know if any like substantial thing would be said, but at the end of it, we'd both be red hot in the face.
Oh,
By the way,
certainly.
Hayden, that is a good not segue into our first segment, but a little preview. We're not going to be talking so much soccer today, folks. We're actually going to dive into a little bit of college football. Just a heads up there for those of you that don't like
American footy. I
the
like
soccer
it.
ball. Yes, exactly. Blake, what are you going to be talking about?
Yeah, so we're at this interesting time of the year where NBA offseason is starting to slow down, and it's going to be like that until near the end of September. We'll probably start getting, like, when we get into September, we'll start looking at what the roster is going to look like and what should we expect. We might do like a whole win-loss and where we're going to finish the season. But right now, we're going to roll around the league a little bit because there was some things that happened in the NBA. The Hawks have a couple of updates, and then we're going to get into some fun things. We're going to look at Nick Wright's top 50 list for 50 best players the last 50 years in the NBA, and then we're going to get into some Madden ratings. So I know Madden's pretty popular in the sports world, not as much amongst our friends, and we'll talk about that.
Ooh, I like it. We're getting into gaming.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm hoping
Yes.
as much gaming as I can bring up when we'll start doing it, especially when it's sports related. So
Please do.
Is it a Kylo Ren towel you have behind you on your chair?
Yeah, so this is actually a blanket that I sit on my chair, and Kylo Ren. I know this is like probably an unpopular opinion, but I actually really like Kylo Ren.
God.
So
All right.
I think it's cool.
That can be a separate episode.
Our most blurred characters in history.
May have to be a
Yes.
different podcast for our
Yeah,
purposes.
That's true.
It
And
could
then,
be
yeah,
a blurst of the week.
Kylo Ren, yes.
Kylo Ren Blurst of the week.
Probably the entire sequel series would
Yeah.
probably be in that category.
Star Wars is a franchise.
Yeah, Star Wars is a franchise. Yeah.
And so obviously I'll be getting into the Braves. We're in the heat of it here in the middle of summer.
Good
so
fun.
a lot going on. Trade deadline coming up. So excited about it. Before we get started, you guys got any pressing issues you want to get off your chest before we get into the Braves?
Yeah. I mean, we can. Well, I do want to talk about it now because we can. So right before recording this, I guess it's a couple hours ago, there was breaking news that Julio Jones signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I don't care really like too much because he's only played 14. He's played 19 games the last 2 seasons, so barely more than a full season. He's only scored 4 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons. I think he had 31 catches last year.
Which, by the way, though, 4 touchdowns in 2 years for Julio Jones, that's got to be a career high.
Oh my God.
That's got to be up there.
I know you
Oh,
say
Lord.
that, but I think you forget how good Julio was his first like 5 years in
No,
the Falcons.
I don't. I just know that
Why
none of
could
that
he not
mattered.
score? It just does
Well,
not make sense.
It,
Like, even
I,
now.
So I
yeah,
looked it up. I looked up because I wanted to know what's Julio Jones. So he's had 60 touchdowns in his career, is what. Yeah. So yes, let me see. Hold up, I have right here. Yeah, 60 touchdowns, which puts him second all time for the Falcons, right behind Roddy White. Where he has 63. But Julio played 36 less games than him. However, if you compare him to like Andre Rison, I don't even know who
Bad
that
Moon.
is.
One of the coolest nicknames ever. They called him Bad Moon.
So he played only 78 games for the Falcons, but he had 56 touchdowns in 78 games, whereas Julio had 60 over 135. So actually, it came down to every 2 games he may or may not score a touchdown. So I mean, I agree with you, Aaron.
Another fun fact about Andre Rison, his girlfriend Lisa Left Eye Lopez, who was a rapper, burnt his house down while he was here in Atlanta. Yeah,
What the
weird,
hell?
right?
When was this?
In the
I've never heard of this guy.
'90s. He was during the like Dirty Birds and stuff.
I feel like he
Wow.
should have been like. I feel like you said it's Ryzen.
Yeah,
Is his
Rison.
name? I feel like that
Yeah,
should.
that's
more
why
like
they called
sun
him-
related
That's why they called him Bad Moon because of the CCR
The Bad
song,
Moon Rising?
Bad Moon
Yeah.
Rising.
because
That's
the
pretty
sun
good.
is the bad moon.
Yes,
He is the bad moon.
if you will. I know.
But
I know you. Go ahead.
But I want just bringing up Julio real quick. It just what bothers me the most about this though is just the gall though to go play with Tom Brady, like especially after everything that we went through with him. And we don't have to bring it up now. We can talk about Julio in a later episode. We can really dive into his career here, but it just rubs me the wrong way.
I get that. I do.
I would.
But yeah,
love
Alright.
let's talk baseball. Let's talk about something a little more happy.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well-
There's some injuries.
Depends on where I want to start. So I've kind of changed my mind. So let's go ahead and let's get on these Braves real quick. So
Let's.
last Friday we got back from the All-Star break, and immediately we're facing Shohei Ohtani, and he has been absolutely the best pitcher in baseball of late. He did have 11 strikeouts through 6 innings, was holding us scoreless, just looking completely dominant in Atlanta. And then something clicked with the Braves. They touched him up for 6 runs in the 7th
They
inning.
did.
I heard
Starting with
pretty
Matt
cool.
Olson, also.
Yep.
Yeah, I heard some people talking about that. The fact that like I think the heat got to him. He's just not used to playing in the smoldering heat of the South with that humidity. But still, like if that was the case, the manager just shouldn't send him out there. Like if he was fatigued, I don't.
Shohei
Well,
ain't country strong. Is
He
what
ain't
it is.
country
He
strong.
ain't.
That's
No,
fair.
he ain't. That's
That's
fair.
the only thing Babe Ruth has him on. Is that right there?
You're not wrong. But I think Shohei might beat all of his other records by the end of
He
this.
might.
Like he probably will.
But
no,
to,
it was
to his point though. I will say he was dealing through 6, and if they had taken him out after the 6th,
it would be unexcusable.
well, no, I just mean that they might have won. It might have not been the same game.
Oh yeah, no, I
Yeah.
agree.
is
I mean,
what I'm
but,
saying.
but here's the thing though: is that a fan when your pitcher's dealing like that, you'd
Oh,
be
yeah,
very
I get that.
upset. Yeah, you'd be so
Yes.
upset. Like if that was us, I would be like, "Why'd you take him out?
Why'd
like,
you take him out?
Oh,
They
yeah.
had 20 strikeouts.
Yeah, the Angels have a weak bullpen this year too. Well, probably most years, but they're pretty weak this year. So that's one reason they probably were trying to extend him out a little bit. And
That's
like,
fair.
if you just watch the game at all or the highlights, his stuff is nasty. And like, I haven't watched him pitch that much, but like the movement, like the velocity, the accuracy. He's painting 100-mile-per-hour fastballs, like just barely nicking the zone, and like you can't do anything about that. You can't touch it.
It's one thing to be a good pitcher and like a great hitter, or being a great pitcher and a good hitter, but to be great at both at the level he is it's absurd. No, it is absurd. And watching him, like you said, it was, I don't know, it's glorious to watch. And then I think he hit a home run the next night. Like,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah,
Is it like
so
a
he-
line drive home run that got out in like 2 seconds?
Right.
But yeah, luckily the Braves did get to him in the 7th inning, and we scored 6 runs. He hadn't given up more than 1 run since the beginning of June, and that was 7 starts ago.
That is crazy.
So that's how good that he's been. And I'll just say this about the Braves lineup. It just kind of shows like how able we are to make in-game adjustments, and you don't hear that as much in baseball as you do
great
other
point.
sports because there's not a halftime. But like they're able, like, with iPads and stuff, to like see what's going on in their at bats and like step back through it. And Matt Olson has seen him a little bit more than other players since he was
That's
in the
very
AL
true.
West.
True. Good call.
In the last couple of seasons. But being able to make those adjustments mid game and being able to get to one of the best pitchers in baseball, that's the kind of stuff that makes great playoff teams, because that's the caliber of pitching that you're going to be facing every day in the playoffs.
I think you just made a great point too. Something that I don't think gets talked about enough in modern baseball, because everyone complains about, and I'm one of the people that complain about it, like let your pitchers pitch, let them duel, let them go out. If they can get a complete game, let them do it. But because of technology, it's so much harder to go back to that lineup again than it ever was before. Like, it's always been hard to go back to the lineup, but now that they can literally inspect every pitch you threw at them, you almost have to mix it up again. It's like you have to bring a new bag of tricks every time. And I think that actually may lead to pitchers having more pitches than just maybe 3 or 4. Like for example, Max Fried has 5 pitches he can go to, which I think makes him a little more dangerous.
It's really cool too, because it's just a back and forth of like how the batters are using technology versus how the pitchers use technology. And so like Max Fried, for example, like he throws a sinker, that's one of his pitches. But he also has a sinker that he can make dive the other way, and
that's
he
crazy.
Also has a sinker that like he takes like 1 to 2 miles per hour off. And so like it's that kind of fluctuation that is just insane, and the level of detail. And that's if you look back at a Braves great Greg Maddux, that's well before the age of throwing 100 miles per hour. He was throwing about 90, and the way that he used to mix up his pitches, he had like his own system. He would like look at the clock on the scoreboard based on like what minute number it was. He would throw that pitch, and that's how he kept so random and like kept hitters on their toes, because there was no pattern.
He just used RNG. I didn't know that either.
That's awesome.
It's insane, like the level of detail, but like that's just kind of the mind games of Mad Dog.
Speaking of calling pitches, this is a little off topic of that, but during the All-Star game, do you see how the pitcher and the catcher wore like mics and talked to each other during that? I wish they would do stuff like that during regular games.
Oh, they do now.
They do. Okay.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen it then. I don't know.
Yeah. There's been a few miscommunications that like the earpiece has been messed up, but like at the beginning of the season, not every team was using it, but now just a few teams do. And it's called pitch comm. And so what's going on is the catcher, it has some buttons that they press on their leg guard, I think, and then that relays signs into the pitcher's ear. And I think they're testing out maybe letting a couple of position players also know what pitch is coming, because for positioning's sake, that's pretty important, because you'll take an extra step here or there,
especially if you're like trying to go for a double play or something like that.
Are they introducing this because Houston cheated?
I don't know.
Let's just let everybody cheat.
Or is that
just one of their innovations? So I guess maybe it's.
I mean, it helps prevent cheating because you don't see the signs if you're just.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's a weird line. Like Houston was cheating because they were using like a system of someone that wasn't in the game, or like somebody that wasn't on the team, and relaying signals to the players.
Right.
And but stealing signs is also a part of baseball, which is kind of that's a different, unique take on the sport too. Like as opposed to other sports, is like if you have a runner at second base, you have to change up your signs. You have to give multiple signs, or else if you don't, then I'm on second base and I'm telling you like if a fastball's coming or off speed, and then you can just sit on it.
Like little mind games.
It's honestly very similar to, well, not very similar, but I think the only other thing that comes to mind there for me is like, and not so much NFL, but high school and college football. A lot of offenses and defenses also, but if they want to run a more up tempo, they'll be showing signs and things like that, and different pictures and stuff. And it is they'll have that guy over there with the towel holding it up so the other team can't see it. Same stuff. I mean, if you can get your hands on one of those signs, that's fair play. But
yeah, exactly. I mean, it makes a difference. So it's kind of like a weird line that Houston crossed a few years ago. But stealing signs is part of the sport. But I guess it's kind of going away now with how they're relaying pitches
now. Yeah, and I don't mind the pitch signs going away. I actually kind of like the earpiece thing. I really like for the fan perspective, like it brings some more. I don't know, not that baseball's boring when you're watching, but like I don't know, y'all. I put baseball in the background while I'm doing other things. Like it's a great sport to have on if I have to need to be productive doing something else, because I can just look up
Yeah.
every now and then and the action's there. It's not all the time action.
That's like just the pace of play thing is so much different in baseball. It's one of the enjoyable things about it to me is, I mean, you're exactly right. Like if the Braves game's on, I'll be walking around listening to it or like working on the computer or something else. Or if
100%.
you're at the game, it's like it doesn't matter if you miss a couple of pitches, you know, like you're just going out and like you're kind of relaxing and having a beer. And like if you're at like a MLS game, if you're at Atlanta United or the Hawks game or Falcons game, it's so up paced compared to that. So I guess it's kind of it's more of an acquired taste as opposed to other sports.
It doesn't matter though until it does matter. My dad was at the World Series the year we last won previous to this, and he was in the bathroom during the David Justice home run. So he watched it on a small TV. He watched it on a small TV above the urinal while peeing.
Nice.
Oh, what a moment.
The one.
What a moment. Yes.
So he was there, but he missed it.
Oh, man. What I mean,
Yeah.
that's you don't forget about that. The
No.
time that you were peeing in 1995 when David Justice hit a homer. Shout out Blake's dad.
Yes.
Oh,
All right, so let's jump back into the rest of the Braves segment here. Adam Duvall actually injured his wrist, and he's out for the season. It's a really weird play if you saw it. It was on Saturday. Shohei hit a foul ball. Duvall was playing left field, and he didn't really hit the wall that hard. And usually on a broken wrist like that or injured wrist, you see it and you can tell like he hit it with a lot of velocity.
Oh, damn. Yeah, right.
But yeah, so it was kind of weird. He just kind of gingerly hit it, and then I guess it just started feeling wrong. I guess the technical injury is a torn tendon sheath, which sounds terrifying.
I didn't even know tendons had sheaths.
Like
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not a
Yeah.
doctor guy.
No,
I mean,
no.
I thought too when it was first reported that like there was like, oh, he hurt his wrist, he's gonna be in the IL for a little bit, and then it came out like, oh no, he broke his or torn his tendon sheath. Sorry,
Yeah.
Yeah.
let me say that correctly.
Tendon sheath.
like like a sword sheath.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's
I would say
actually that's
exactly
kind of
like a
what it
sword
is because
sheath.
it kind of like it covers like part of your bones and stuff.
Yeah.
And like
A
muscles.
tendon scabbard, if you
And-
will.
If you will. Yeah, his
Yeah.
old scabbard got broken.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it sucks for Duvall because he's been coming on the last few months. Like as the team has improved at the beginning of June, like so has he, and that's been part of the reason for it.
Oh, he's been our third or fourth most productive hitter since June 1st. Like when it comes to just production wise, not just batting average, but when you talk about runs, home runs,
Sure.
etc.
Yeah, and like Harris came up, and then Duvall didn't have to play in center every day, and then Eddie Rosario came back, and he didn't have to play every day, and they're just kind of splitting time in the outfield, and that's had a really good effect on him and his at bats. And so just like looking at his numbers, let's see, like since I'm gonna cut this part because I lost this.
No, you're good.
Okay, since the beginning of June, he is hitting 244. He has 20 RBIs, 10 home runs, and he does strike out a fair amount. That's kind of his thing.
Right.
That comes with the territory and the power.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like his WRC plus is 141, and so the average for the league is 100. So that shows like how like above average he's been playing. But yeah, so like
the thing is, he's been solid, and there hasn't really been anyone else we can put in his stead. Like I know we have Rosario there, but to be fair, he's suffered with the eye condition, and he's gotten that fixed. But he hasn't had the amount of bats he needs to probably recover to where he should be hitting wise. And maybe this could be that for him now. You hate to see Duvall go down though.
Yeah, Snit said about that too. Is like it's hard to stay patient with the hitter at this part of the season. If it's early on in the season, Rosario's coming back slow, and then it's okay. It's like, okay, yeah, let's let him get more at bats. But at this point of the season, we need production, and it's hard to replace that. And Duvall is he's solid, and like he's been very solid the last 2 months, and that doesn't even mention like his defensive abilities and him. I mean, as a Gold Glover moving into left field, that made us one of the strongest defenses.
Yes.
And then like when we came back and played against the Phillies the other day or yesterday, I suppose. immediately Ozuna's back in left field, which that is the last thing that you want
I
because his
hate that.
arm is a noodle,
But
like
the
a
issue,
wet noodle. It's terrible.
the hard
Dude,
part
it
is though, I think Rosario was a lefty yesterday. Is that why? Is Nolo?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, Rosario's awful against lefties, and then you can't move Contreras to the field because he's not really fielded before. I know they try to move catchers out there all the time, but he's never really been a fielder. He might have a better
Yeah.
arm than Ozuna, but he's not.
Oh yeah, he definitely has a better arm. Ozuna has definitely a better read on the ball. He's just not comfortable out there. That's a big transition too. It's not like you're. It's just
Where-
like you're on a different side of the ball completely.
Right, completely. Where did Ozuna play in the field prior to like when he was in Milwaukee? Was it Milwaukee or St. Louis?
No.
Where was he at?
He was first in Miami,
Miami,
and then
right.
St. Louis, and
St.
then,
Louis, that's
Braves.
right.
But yeah,
Hey.
he'd always played the outfield. He actually won a Gold Glove in Miami.
That's what I
Oh,
thought.
did he?
Yeah,
Wow.
he was. He was a good fielder.
That's
in
crazy.
a period of time, a period ago.
Yeah, and then he hurt his arm, and that's what the big thing is like players can tag up from second to third base while he's playing in left field, and he can't throw him out. And like
wild.
when you have that kind of hole, is like it makes a huge difference, and like teams get a lot more aggressive on the base pass, and they can score some more runs like that.
Interestingly enough, sorry to interrupt, but while y'all were talking about that, I just went and looked up because I was curious. When did the Braves play the Phillies tonight? They're underway right now. It's top second. Braves up 1-0, and Eddie Rosario is at bat as we speak.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
But
maybe he gets a hit here.
hopefully he'll get a hit.
I don't know if y'all watched the game last night. Watching the game, just a little off topic too, but just bringing up Phillies. We're 2 games back from the Mets. Last night was one of those weird games, just a freak loss. That weird popper on Matt Olson on the first base line. Where
Oh my god,
how do
that
you
was a
predict? You
terrible
can't
hop.
predict that. You just can't
No.
predict it. And then also the Phillies though, they gave us some runs too. So like it was just one of those weird games, like a curse game really for
That's-
both teams.
That's how you get to Max Fried. Is like you have to get some lucky hops, and you have to. I mean, he's just so dominant that
Apparently, that was like Max Fried's second best game all year too. If you look at like advanced metrics, pitching
Really?
wise, yeah,
Yeah.
and he still gets the 3 runs against him because of that weird hop.
he's a
That's
freak,
wild.
man. I like how intense that he's gotten over the course of his career too. He's turning into kind of like a Max Scherzer type. Like
Yeah.
he's just kind of a psycho on the mound, and he just like. And I
Yeah.
like it though. I mean,
Yes.
Well,
it's
it's the
cool.
first time
turns
the
me on.
Braves-
It gets me going.
It gets-
Yeah, I mean, the
He's a
Braves had-
handsome
it's
man.
the blood flowing.
We haven't had that as a Braves fan since Smoltz. Like we haven't had any. Like Tim Hudson was good.
Yeah,
but he
Tim
was never-
Hudson was kind of intense on the
but he
mound,
wasn't.
but
He wasn't dominant like Max is.
With
like
that soul patch,
No,
yes,
yeah.
please.
I was about to
say.
we had one good year of Javier Vasquez, who was he struck out the whole league, I think. But yes, no, you're right.
Yeah, it's just not the same. Like Max is so young too. Like we're gonna hopefully knock on wood, Braves keep him. Like
Wow.
I mean, you got to.
I think he's 28, so he's still waiting on his first big deal.
Yeah, and it better be the Braves giving it to him.
Oh yeah, I think he's pretty locked in.
I think
He's very reliable.
so. I think what we're going to talk about next probably would be replacing Duvall. But I think what might be more helpful if we talk about Ian Anderson first, because if you really look at it, we're talking about the trade deadline coming up, and you're going to be you have to do something maybe on two fronts right now, pitching wise and batting, because of this injury to Duvall. Because before Duvall goes down, I think you're only looking at adding pitchers to this team.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And to me, honestly, I would say replacing Duvall is a bigger need than replacing Ian Anderson, even as bad as Anderson's
Yes.
been.
Well,
immediate need.
I would agree
Yeah.
to that until today, and then you see the news that Kyle Muller got his non-throwing hand broken from a comebacker, which he would have been your most obvious like replacement if you had to send down Ian to the minors for a couple of weeks and bring him up to do some spot starts. Now you can't even do that.
I'd say he's probably your most obvious trade piece as well. So now it's going to be interesting to see.
That doesn't hurt his. I don't think it hurts his trademark.
Yeah,
that much, though.
it's a short-term injury, so it's
It
not
is.
like a big.
And in baseball, it's really not like other, like in baseball, you trade all the time for players who aren't going to play for that season when you trade for prospects. So like,
Yeah.
I don't think it hurts. It does hurt his trademark a little bit, but I don't think it hurts it as bad as it would have otherwise.
So
Right.
let's talk about why we're talking about we may need a starting pitcher, and that's because Ian Anderson's been struggling this season. He's got like a 5.8 ERA for the year, which is really high for him. Like last year he was at a 3.58. In 2020, he was at a 1.95. That was his first year in the pandemic season. But I mean, he's just never really struggled like this. And there's a couple of different frames of mind of like what we can do. And one of it is to let him pitch through it, or the other is to send him down and let him pitch through it where it doesn't matter. And you can look at players like Kyle Wright, and who is a legitimate, almost an ace at this point. He's been so legit.
Yes,
this season.
he is like you'd probably call him the number 2, but you could almost call him 1B. If he does this again next year, he's 1B. It's 1A, 1B.
But that like brings such an interesting dynamic because Kyle Wright, he's been with the Braves for years and just up and down between AAA and the MLB. And like he's had seasons where he had like a 7 ERA. And so like what that like baseball is so mental. I mean, every sport is, but like if a player gets in their head that something's wrong or like that they're going to be demoted, then that can also have such an effect on their pitching.
I'd say more so than any other sport.
Yes, I agree. Baseball, I think probably up there with golf. Golf's different though because it's not a team sport. But yeah, I agree. 100% agree. Up there.
We're talking about actual sports, Blake. Come on, man.
Oh, my bad. To any golfers who listen to us, we don't all think that. That's just him.
So
I did Tiger Woods as a Blursed. Okay, that's my one thing for golf.
But I'll give you that. Crushed it. But to what you were saying, I do agree. Like in baseball, there's so much more of a mental aspect to it. And especially as a pitcher, in a starting pitcher, you're only out there every 5 games. So like if you're screwing up, you have to wait 5 more games to go out there and try again. And I feel like your confidence can just reach an all-time low. Yeah. Which might be where he's at right now.
And so if you look at his stats from the beginning of June, he has a 6.27 ERA. But if you start looking game by game, it's not as bad as you would think. Like obviously you want more than 5 innings pitched from your pitcher every once in a while to help save your bullpen. But so let's see.
Isn't he like 8-6 also or something like that? He has a winning record overall on the year, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean so
the bats have come to life too for him.
Yes, not that
helps
like
the
too. Biggest.
But the name of the game is like the pitcher needs to keep you in the ball game and give your hitters a chance. So you want to give up less than 3 runs for it to be a quality outing. And so on June 30th, Ian gave up 7 earned runs. In his next 3 starts, he gave up 1 earned run, 2 earned runs, and 1 earned run in 5 innings each time.
But look who he played against.
Yeah, he got Washington twice. St. Louis isn't a bad team.
No, St. Louis is not a bad team, but he only went 5 innings. He only went 5 innings in all 3 of those. And he's not even I saw a stat today. He doesn't even qualify for any of the starting pitching stats right now because he hasn't pitched enough innings yet. But he's pitched in every game this season he could pitch in.
Yeah, so that's what it comes back to is his control issues, and it's kind of a snowball effect at that point too. So Ian is known for his changeup, and when he gets a hitter that will chase it down in the zone, and they think it's a fastball, they swing over the top of it every time. The issue is that he's not locating his off-speed pitches, and what that means is like they aren't going to chase it, and they can just sit on the fastball. He also throws a flat fastball, so he has a really weird arm angle, but like you can tell even when you're watching the game, like compared to other pitchers, he doesn't have a slope on the ball. It's more flat. So when you throw it flat like that, you want to keep it up in the zone so that way they're not going to be able to get on top of it.
Right.
And he's having to throw get me over fastballs, and they're teeing off on him. And so that's why you see these games like this that blow up on him.
It almost makes it harder as a pitcher too, and like when you don't have that curve, that arc on the ball, because then they might know what's coming a little bit more. They can maybe tee them up. And when you're exactly what you're saying, when you're not confident in your other pitches and you're having to throw the same fastball over and over again, they're going to tee up on you from time to time. And the hardest part about this, and I even heard Snicker talking this week because someone asked him, like, when do you send him down? He said, well, that's not up to me. It's up to AA, which I thought that was very interesting that he said that because you think he does have some say on that. But the hard part is Ian Anderson not only did have a great year last year, but he also was unhittable in the World Series and the playoffs last year, leading up like this.
That was the weird thing about it. Yeah, his playoff performance was unreal.
Yeah, so like with all those factors combined, and like the online discourse can be a little bit crazy around baseball sometimes because baseball is such a long season. It is twice as long as the NBA season, which is nuts. Twice the amount of games.
And it's played in the same period of time too as the NBA. Like I think it actually might be less months overall because NBA goes from October to June.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
believe.
For the
Yeah.
playoffs.
So July, August, September. They have 3
Yeah.
off months. Where baseball has way more off months than that, but they've just sandwiched it all together so
Yeah,
fast.
I mean, it's damn near every day, and
It's a
so
sprint
like
or marathon.
it's just been kind of crazy on like
And a
Twitter.
sprint. It's
It's a
both.
sprint. It's a sprinting marathon.
It is. It's a
Okay?
sprinting marathon, is what
That's what it
baseball
is.
is. Baseball, the sprinting marathon.
It feels like both at times. I know that.
Yes.
It's a little bit of a sprint here before the trade deadline. But as I was saying, like, it's just so hard. Everybody online wants to make a split decision based on the most recent game, but it's so hard to do that in baseball, and it's more of a body of work. And so the question is, at what point does Ian get to that, and that where we think that someone else would do better than him? I don't think that comes with it from within our farm system right now.
No, I mean, I thought with Kyle Muller, you could send Ian down to the minors for a little while and bring him up and just try to get his confidence back. But with the Kyle Muller freak accident where the comebacker hits and breaks his other hand, and then Ian Anderson struggles, and you also have Spencer Strider, who they're saying he's not on a pitch restriction, but they are going to be smart about him. They'll probably let him skip some starts later in the season, but they want him to be a starting pitcher in the playoffs, which is pretty exciting.
Oh,
as a
yeah.
Braves
That is-
fan.
that
Oh,
is
you
awesome.
got to.
No, it's so exciting. But the thing is, with that, you are going to have to bring another arm in now. And I think because one, if you don't, and Ian Anderson never recovers, what do you do? Like, you don't have a fifth pitcher anymore. You don't have someone you feel comfortable bringing up to win you a World Series at least. And so I think now you have to make a move.
So, yeah, I mean, he's obviously our fifth best starter at this point. To me, I ride with him. Probably give him one or two more starts, but that doesn't mean you don't make a move at the trade deadline and try to you get a backup. Somebody that like maybe they can work in long relief for the time being. And then if Ian doesn't straighten things out in the next month, then you make a change there. And then maybe you put Ian in some low leverage situations.
Yeah, you put Ian in the bullpen.
Get some
maybe.
confidence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
So as we're talking about the trade deadline and potential moves we might make, I keep hearing people think we want to make some moves for bullpen. And maybe you can explain this to me, Hayden, because I don't understand that quite too much. And here's my logic why I don't get it. You have Matzik coming back. You have Kirby Yates coming back. And you also already have
Matzik's back already.
No, you have Matzik. Oh, yeah, exactly. So Matt is back. You have Kirby Yates coming back, which I know he hasn't pitched for us yet, but I mean, he's an incredible pitcher, and he's been tearing it up already in his rehabs, like his stint so far. I don't get why you need another relief pitcher added to this group with what we have right now.
So, I mean, that's another issue is like the recency bias thing. If Minter blows one game like he did on Monday, then people start freaking out and it's the end of the world and Minter can't pitch anymore. We can't have him in there in close games, blah, blah, blah. And like, it's dumb. I mean,
it's not his fault.
It's just not how baseball works.
No.
You have to, it's a broad spectrum and you have to be able to see what's going on all around like every game. And not many people watch every game.
A fun Minter fact for you. That was only his second home run. He's given up to a left-handed hitter in his 5 years in baseball, in the Major League Baseball. Only a second home run. So like it never happens.
And Minter's been our best reliever this year. So I guess the argument for bringing in a reliever is that you can't have enough.
Right.
And you want to have high leverage guys. So Yates, when he comes back, is going to be one of our late inning guys. Unfortunately, we lost Luke Jackson early this year. So,
I know.
We would like to find somebody that can fill that role. And then Kinley, has had some injury issues. So maybe a little bit more depth would make you feel better. Will Smith, obviously.
Hit or miss.
Hard to rely on. But, I mean.
Who pitched last night before Minter? It's slipping my mind right now. Dylan Lee? No. What's his name?
Dylan Lee. Yeah, he's been super good.
He's incredible.
Maybe that's what needs to happen more is like Stint needs to be a little bit more aggressive in changing the high leverage relievers with the low leverage. Like if Dylan Lee is performing, move him up. Like, and then you move Will Smith down the pecking order.
I know it's so unconventional in baseball to do that, but when you have the talent you do in the Braves bullpen, I wouldn't be afraid to do that sometimes, unless it really is that mental for some of these pitchers. We're like, no, I can't do that. Like,
it's just it's so up and down, and like even year to year, relievers are completely different. And like they're probably more like head cases than starting pitchers. Probably comparable to like kickers in football.
Oh
Like
yeah, absolutely.
it's like it's there one year, then like you miss a kick and then boom, it's over. Or like you give up a save, or you blow a game, give up one home run, and then you can't find it anymore. No matter, and you start pressing a little bit, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
So, anyways, let's talk about replacing Duvall. The trade deadline is on August 2nd. He's been platooning with Rosario, so I'd imagine Rosario will still be getting at bats against righties. Just as a note, we brought in 4 outfielders last year when we had to replace Acuna. Obviously, that paid dividends. I don't think we'll bring in 4 again. But, I do think 1 or 2 are going to find their way onto this roster that have some meaningful experience.
For sure. Well, I have a question. Do you know, and maybe Aaron, you could look this up, how many years does Ozuna have left in his contract with the Braves?
That's a good question. I will look that up.
Thank you. Because part of what I'm thinking is, and this might sound really crazy, y'all, but what if you package Ozuna with maybe some minors for a trade? Because listen, hear me out here. It opens up old Wild Bill Contreras to be your DH, like to actually DH more. And Ozuna is not helping us in the outfield right now anyway. So if you're trading for another outfielder, you could bring in.
He will not help us in the outfield ever.
Yes, exactly. Ever. So really, I think he could be a great trade piece. He's not been incredible this year for us. I mean, he has some power, but I think we could maybe move him for someone who might be better.
The problem is he's not far into it. In 2021, we gave him a 4-year, $65 million deal. So he's got 3 more.
If you include it'd 2 be hard more to get off this contract, probably.
He has a 5th-year team option, which I doubt we'll pick up.
We will not.
Probably not. I mean, I think next year he naturally takes over the DH, and Contreras is just our everyday catcher. Because I think this is last year.
Darno has 1 more year after this.
Oh, never mind. Well, I don't know then. Well, we'll see what happens.
We'll be holding down the best catchers in the game for another year.
Yes.
But yeah, so I guess about getting an outfielder at the very least. What AA understands is that there's value to bringing in guys that are underperforming based on their average career stats. So he did that with Rosario last year, who was having a bad season, and he was injured when we traded Pablo Sandoval for him. And then same thing with Jorge Soler. He was struggling with the Royals, and we brought him in for almost nothing. And
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say he also picked players who weren't on teams where they had much bat defense around them, if that makes sense. Like, we didn't go look for Joey Gallo from the Yankees because Joey Gallo plays with great batters right now. Like, what he's doing may not change too much if he came here, but he went for batters who didn't have much besides them, really.
Like Jock was on the Cubs last year, and maybe we'll talk about Jock here in a minute. But yeah, so there's just value to be had with these guys that aren't performing to their like career averages. Baseball is a game of being hot and being cold. And so these guys have been cold the first half of the season. The game of averages tells you that, they're probably going to get hot. And that's exactly what happened with those guys. And so I think AA is very good at understanding that and finding value. But yeah, so as far as what we're looking for an outfielder / utility person that is on a non-playoff team. I would say probably a righty because you're replacing Duvall, who was a righty.
Correct.
To me, you want to find a guy that's in the last year of his contract. This way, it makes it a cheaper deal for us, and it lets us be flexible in the offseason because this is Duvall's last year under contract.
See, I wouldn't be opposed to going and get someone who maybe had another year if you're comfortable with them playing 2 years in a row because of that reason, because it is Duvall's last year.
Sure.
But I didn't see many players out there that I was interested in that we could actually probably get that have that.
Yeah. I mean, and teams the value goes up for the other team, like the longer they have them under contract.
Right.
They have them locked in, and they have more control over the player, and they're transferring that value to you as the recipient. But being in the last year of a contract, you're able a lot of time, basically you're just buying out the remainder of that deal, and maybe sending some extra cash in like a low tier prospect. So it's mostly a cash exchange at that point. Then that can open up a few more players than you think.
So who are your top 3 right now? If we made a trade today.
All right, yeah, let's get to these. I feel like I'm running long here.
No, you're fine.
You're good.
So even though Ian Happ has one more year of arbitration with the Cubs, that's probably my top choice. He's a switch hitter, which that gives a little bit of extra flexibility.
For
And
sure.
he also has played like over 300 career innings at second base.
Which
And that
helps us
gives
right
with,
now.
with Ozzy, we don't know exactly how his rehab's going. Hopefully he's coming back at the end of August, but you never know. So it just gives you a little flexibility. If you bring someone like him in, you probably send down Cano.
He's not
Or
bad
let
this
go
year
of him.
either. He's batting right under 280
No,
with 9 home runs and
I think he made the
44
All Star
RBI.
game. Like he's having a good year. So that's a guy that we
Oh, we
would
did,
have
yeah.
for an additional year, and he's only making 6.8 mil this year. He'll probably make
Not bad.
closer to 8.5 next year based on how he's playing.
But that costs a little bit more, probably. I bet you there's a couple teams looking for
Yeah,
Ian.
Cubs are selling off. They're 11 and a half back of the last wild card spot. So,
Boy.
yeah, they're not going to make it. So another one that a lot of people are talking about is Andrew Benintendi. He's with the Royals. The Royals are 12 and a half games back of the wild card. They're not going to make it. And I mean, he's been a stud this year too. He's making $8.5 million this year, and in the last year of his contract. One side note with him is he is not vaccinated, and that came out recently because the Royals were supposed to play the Blue Jays in Toronto, and those players do not travel with the team.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so that adds a little dynamic because the Blue Jays are very good this year. They've been playing really well. If you
sure.
match up against the Blue Jays in the World Series and you have players that aren't vaccinated, it gets a little hairy. What do you do?
Yeah,
at
that's
that
not
point?
good.
And as much as I like Benintendi, and I think he'd be awesome to be on the Braves, he's actually hits for average. But that's one of the weird parts, though. The Braves as a whole, we don't have many hitters that hit for average, and he lacks the power that we tend to like in players. I think he only has
true.
3 home runs on the year. Not saying that's a reason why we wouldn't get him. He just doesn't fit kind of the current mold right now. But who knows? A high average player wouldn't hurt.
No, I mean you got to have ducks on the pond. You know,
That's right.
you
I
got to
don't
knock
know.
them.
We
before you
do
hit 'em.
like hitting solo
Mhm.
shots, though. We do.
God.
It's one of our favorite things to do.
Huge.
It works,
Hitting
but
solo, yeah.
I'd rather have a couple guys on base first.
Yes. Gosh.
And then real quickly, I'll bring up Robbie Grossman. So he played for the A's for a long time, and now he's with the Tigers, who are 13 games back of a wild card. They're not going to make it. He's also a switch hitter, which I like that because it gives more flexibility.
Sure.
He's probably the cheapest option because he's in the last year of his deal, and he's been underperforming his career average. So I think that's one reason that AA might be looking at him and saying we can get him on the cheap. Just buy out the rest of that contract. Tigers aren't going to care. They're probably going to bring up somebody and develop him the rest of this season. But yeah, so that's kind of my top three right now that I think the Braves might go after. Yeah.
I have one I'd like to add that kind of fits that mold that you were talking about, where you have just the rental. But I also had 2 players that I wouldn't mind bringing back for a second season if we trade for them. So real quick, mine that you didn't have was Trey Mancini, who's the DH for the Orioles right now. I know they're still in the hunt for the wild card, but maybe
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
They have
No,
a great
I mean,
year.
that whole division is incredibly competitive, and it's
Yes.
amazing. Like, it shows you the testament how good the Yankees are, but also how good every other team in that division is. Nuts. But yeah, I mean, he hits for power, about 9 home runs this year, 37 RBI, and he can play first base and the outfield. So I thought he would be an interesting guy to go for. 2 other players, which these are probably like more pipe dreams. One was Charlie Blackmon, who's the DH for the Rockies right
Yes.
now, but he
Been
did
there a
play
while,
the
yeah.
outfield for a long time. I think he played center field, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But that would be a 2-year. He has a player option in 23. He has 15 homers on the year right now, 58 RBI. He's having a pretty great season.
How much is he making this year?
Too much, probably.
Let me take a look here because I looked this
Yeah,
up
take a
earlier.
yeah.
Yeah, his
tell
base
me.
salary for 2022 is $21 million.
Ooh.
18 mil for 2023.
Well, that's where
So-
you maybe swing the Azuna thing. I don't know. Just a pipe dream. I said these are pipe dreams. It's a
That is-
pipe dream of mine.
I did see Charlie Blackmon trending on Twitter a little bit today, and I just don't see it. Like, that's not the way the Braves play. Like,
No.
they're going to find a value.
He'll probably end up in
10,
LA
10
or
mil or
something like
less
that.
is my opinion. But
So the last player is Brian Reynolds, who plays for the Pirates. He actually also has a contract for 2023. He's got 15 homers on the year, 32 RBI. Pirates aren't doing anything. I don't know what his contract looks like. I do know it's 2 years, though. It would be this year and next.
I just pulled it up. So, yeah, so he has a contract through 2025 right now. He's still he has arbitration years left.
My bad.
So like the value that gives to a team is like is
Way
really
too
high.
much.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like he's a very good player.
He's a
and,
good
like,
player too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the Pirates. I just saw him out there as a fielder, and I was like, hey,
No, I mean, if
I
we
would
could
love to
swing,
have him
if we could swing it, that'd be great. But yeah,
because I was thinking he could take over for the future too.
yeah, he's pretty young. He's 27 years old. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe we see a transition and the Braves start spending money. I don't know.
We'll see.
In my opinion, if we get a 1-year guy, there are a few notable free agents that could fill a hole next year. So Benintendi is a free agent this year. Also, Aaron Judge, which I think if we're gonna take a big swing, that would be cool to bring him in.
Ooh,
So
I can't wait to dive into that a little bit later.
that'll be very expensive. But
Good pun there, by the way.
all right, we've gone well over on the Braves, so let's pivot here.
Much deserving though. Very crazy time.
Yes.
And Braves
It's
land.
fun. Yeah, it's fun in Atlanta.
Also, the Braves, I might jinx this right here. So if I do, guys, leave a comment, like, share it with your friends. We've yet to have a 3-game losing streak this year.
Wow.
And tonight, if we lose
even
the
with the
Phillies-
struggles to start the year.
Even with the struggle to start the year, we have yet to have a 3-game losing streak. It could happen tonight. Hopefully not. But I just wanted to bring it up. Pretty crazy stat.
That is, yes.
All right, Aaron. Yeah, what's going on? And I know you're going to be pretty quick on Atlanta because it's not fun to talk about what happened to the Five Stripes.
It's not. It's really not fun to talk about the Five Stripes right now. We had a good week last week, a brief respite from the turmoil of this season, but they were back to their old ways. They went over to LA. They played one of the legendary franchises in the MLS, the Galaxy. And man, it was bad because the Galaxy are also bad. They're honestly kind of a mirror image of Atlanta this year, an underachieving team. They don't have the injuries that we've had, but still, they should be doing better than they are. And we go over there, and within the first 10 minutes, we gave up a goal to a guy named Kevin Cabral, who is statistically the worst striker in the MLS.
It was his first goal of the year,
Not
right?
a good soccer name either.
Yeah, no, bad soccer name. But
it doesn't flow like people.
Not only
Brady.
was it the first goal of the year for him, it's the first goal that he's had since September of last year.
Oh God!
All right. So
boy.
he has, and this might just be the Kevin Cabral segment because he has an expected goals of 2.83, which is insanely high, because that's almost a hat trick per game, and that stat is done by the chances that he has, which is basically how
many times he shoots on goal.
Well, no, not that. It's where he is on the pitch when he receives the ball. That's a chance. So if you're in a good position and you get the ball, you should be scoring this many goals. And
Wow.
Yes, and yet that's his first goal since September of last year. The man cannot finish.
Oh my God.
And yeah,
Ooh.
classic Atlanta. We broke his streak. He put one in. And
and 7 minutes in too, so that's classic Atlanta too.
Yes.
Dude hadn't scored in almost a year,
right?
but he's supposed to average
Almost
3
a
per
full-
game based on his
yes.
positioning.
Right,
So
almost a full
he's a
calendar
great
year.
He's
he
really good
has
at getting in
He has to drive the
space.
coach
Oh, yeah.
mad. Just
Yes.
you're always in the right position. Why can't you just put these in?
He's one of their designated players too, which if anyone doesn't know what that is, MLS, soccer throughout the world doesn't have a salary cap. That's how you get teams like Barcelona and Real Madrid and stuff. But here in America, we like salary caps for competitive advantage. And so MLS kind of struck a deal where we have each team gets a certain amount of designated players. I think it's 4. It's either 3 or 4. And anyway, you have a salary cap except for those players.
You can spend what
you can spend whatever you want on those
Wow.
players. And then everyone else has to be under the salary cap.
Got you.
Yeah. And so he's one of their designated players. And he's been that bad. But like I said, he gave him a 1-0 lead. We had to chase the game for the rest of it. Pineda with perhaps his most questionable lineup that he's ever put out.
Oh, God.
We've got the new keeper in. He's been with us since the Orlando game. He had a full week of practice under his belt. A man who has started for the Mexican national team in goal. And instead, we stuck with Rocco Rios Nova, who, while he is a fan favorite, he's just not that good. And it's because he's 20 years old. He is also short. Shout out to all short kings out there everywhere. But
he's also
I
a
take
fan
that
favorite.
personally.
yeah,
He's also a fan favorite though because it's the same reason any player is a fan favorite because he grew up with the organization. I feel like that's always
Yes,
bias
and
that
he
fans
still
have.
he can still be very good, and he stepped in and did a great job in the Champions League last year. However, stepping up in an emergency situation for 2 games is very different than being the everyday starter,
For sure.
and that's
Well
what
said.
yeah, that's really what he's come across here. So Rocco still started. He essentially gave away the opening goal, which is I hate to put that on him because he made a great save, but he fumbled the ball. He saved it and then pushed it back out to Kevin Cabral, who was standing there because he always gets in good positions. And he just put the ball in the back of the net. And then, so like I said, we sub in Joseph and Almada in the second half. Why they weren't there to start, I couldn't tell you. Like magic, the game changes and we get on the front foot, but we're never able to get anything to go in the net. And then we pretty much pushed 10 guys up at the very end of the game to try and score, and they got a long rebound and took it all the way down and scored in like the 93rd or 94th minute.
Yeah, the game was closer than the final score. And the hard part too is in Atlanta United fashion, controlling possession, losing the game. Like it's been like that honestly every year where we've struggled. We still tend to control possession. We tend to just be a team that's good at holding to the ball. We just aren't always putting it in the back of the net.
Exactly. So really, we don't have to go further into that. I feel like a broken record every week here, except for last week with United. So we're going to take a little deviation in this segment. So that was Sam's Soccer Seg of the Week right there. And we're going to move on to a team we have yet to talk about here on Blursed, which is crazy to me because they're half of the reason why we have the name that we do for the podcast. And that is none other than the University of Georgia Bulldogs, the men's football team, as if there were a ladies football team. And we're going to get a little season. Yeah, we're going to get a little season preview. We're going to talk about, just getting into who we lost because we set a record for most players drafted by one school with 15. Then we're going to do a little fun we're going to all look at the schedule, and then we're going to go through and decide how many wins and losses we got. We're kind of going to do similar to what we did the other week with the top 10 quarterbacks. We're trying to go a little bit quicker when we get there. But first, defending champs, folks. I can't say that enough. UGA Football defending national champs. How does that feel for you guys?
You go first, Hayden.
Feels good. Feels real good.
Yeah. Feels good. Yeah, I'll be honest. It does feel good. Honestly, the crazy part about it too is I haven't talked too much about college football recently. So this is one of the first times even mentioning the fact that we're defending national champions, really. Because with the Braves, when they won, we were the World Series winners. And then you have to wait till the season starts before you're like, we are the defending champions. And that's kind of how I feel right now about the Dogs. There hasn't been much talk about college football. So this is probably the first time I've said it.
Well, you don't have arguments like in like the off season that you usually do surrounding UGA football because nobody can talk shit to us right
You
now.
can't say shit. Yeah,
and it's great.
It's been very different. Yes,
it's been quiet, and I love it.
Quiet. Yes. No, but so I'm just really excited about that. We're excited to get the title defense campaign underway. But first, let's take a look at the folks that we won't be seeing this upcoming fall. So there's a lot like I said, there's 15 of them. I've got their names right there for you guys. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I will mention the first 5 because they also set a record for 5 defensive players taken in the first round. Those folks were the number 1 overall pick, Trayvon Walker. He's got that dog in him. Yeah, he do got that dog in him. And so the big man, Jordan Davis, Quay Walker, the linebacker, Devontae Wyatt, another defensive lineman, and then, of course, Lewis Seen, who was one of our best defensive backs all year last year.
Can we also mention the last Georgia Bulldog taken, which was Big John Fitzpatrick?
Yes.
And obviously the Falcons wanted him for his blocking capabilities, but I also think the Falcons helped the Dogs out there because I didn't think he was going to get drafted.
I didn't think he was either, yeah.
I think the Falcons helped the Dogs break that record. I really do.
Mm-hmm. But so, because who was it we beat? LSU, I think.
Yes, it was LSU.
That Joe Burrow LSU team had 14 on them. Yeah. I think. But anyway, yeah. My biggest shout out though to talk about John Fitzpatrick. We didn't think he was going to get drafted. A person that we knew was going to get drafted but it's still so impressive with how early they went based off his position. Jake Camarda, our punter, going in the 4th round. That is crazy to me. Yes, I was absolutely blown away with that pick, but I think he deserves every bit of it. That man was as big of a contributor to why we won the national championship as anyone else for the most part.
Hey.
We won field position in
he's the 12th man on that defense.
Oh, absolutely.
People forget that a punt is the most effective offensive play in football.
That's right. Yes.
Really gets them on 3rd down.
Yes, of course. second most effective is the long interception. So it accomplishes the same goal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But so we got all those guys gone. Another 2 guys to mention that left who were big contributors were Zamir White and James Cook. Those were both, they shared
running back.
Yes, exactly.
Except for it hasn't felt like that as much as of recent.
I mean,
only because Alabama's running backs have been so good.
Yes, there's that, but it's also that Kirby Smart has employed such a running back by committee culture
for sure
at UGA. That is great. I think and
it helps their NFL career too. If we're going to be honest about it,
especially someone like Zamir White, who had such injury issues before he even got to UGA. He messed up his knee in his senior year of high school, missed the whole senior year, and then when he got to UGA, he messed up his knee again. And he was still able to have the career that he had with us, and so that was a great thing to see. And you're exactly right. Now he's in the NFL.
With the Raiders.
That is correct.
Yeah, and Cook's with the Bills, which is very exciting because
now
it's very exciting. I think he has a chance to take over that backfield. Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, no, they could. So basically what we got to talk about now is who are we going to see in those positions that those guys vacated this fall? And I think the biggest holes to fill, to me at least, would be obviously the 5 first-rounders on defense, but of course, coupled with losing our 2 best running backs with Zamir and Cook. So let's start with the running backs here. As you guys see, I've got a little post-spring depth chart. These were the guys that they put out on their, like I said, it's the post-spring depth chart. So 2 guys on here that will be contributors, or at least one of them is going to be a contributor, would be Branson Robinson and Andrew Paul. They did not play in the spring game because they're incoming freshmen.
Okay.
So they're here now. They're here in the summer. And they'll be here this fall as well. But so we think Kendall Milton and Kenny McIntosh are going to be the 1-2 punch. It's yet to see who's going to be the starter per se.
We saw them both last year though too.
Yeah, we saw a lot of both of them last year. So I think that also means that's what's telling me we're going to see a lot of Dejan Edwards, who also got some playing time last year. I think we used like 6 running backs
for sure. And Kendall Milton was actually, to me, one of the most exciting running backs of all of our running backs last year.
He was, but the weird thing the thing I'm a little, I don't know, nervous isn't the right word, but I'm a little curious about is that Kendall Milton never really struck me as the starting running back, as far as he's a big bruiser. It's hard to tackle him. It's hard to bring him down. The man doesn't give up the football, but he just isn't, I don't know. He never felt like he had breakaway speed to me, which Kenny McIntosh certainly does have. But he's just much smaller individual. He's not the big bruiser that.
Yeah. Kendall Milton, 6'1", 220.
Yeah.
But he averaged 4.7 yards a carry, which isn't anything to chalk up.
No, that's good, especially with the little time he got. But yeah, so those 2, I think Dejan Edwards is going to be the clear-cut number 2 running back, with those guys being 1A and 1B. But then one guy that I'm kind of interested to see is Branson Robinson. So Robinson was a 4-star coming out of high school. He was the number 4 running back in the nation. And I watched a lot of his highlights when I was putting together this segment. And honestly, he came out of Mississippi, which isn't like the biggest football powerhouse. So you got to, there's some competition questions there with, what you're looking at as far as how well he did against those guys.
Right.
But he every bit looks the part. He also played defense too, which is cool.
He's 5'10", 220.
Yes, he's a thickin'. He's a big, thick boy. So yeah, it'll be cool to see him. Andrew Paul, I'm not sure if he'll get redshirted or not. That he seems like a redshirt candidate to me. He was a 3-star coming out of high school and the number 42 running back. So definitely doesn't have the hype around him that Branson Robinson does or did.
Right, may just be a special teams guy if not redshirted.
And we've got these 5 listed here because We used 6 running backs last year. There's only 5 on the roster now. So there's a chance that all 5 of them get playing time for sure. But I was also going to throw it around the room real quick. Of what you guys saw last year from Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton, who would you guys want to be the starter?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't mind not having a predominant starter. Like
Right.
I if you
No,
look
I
at
like it.
yeah, I mean Kenny McIntosh 6'1", 210. Like he's actually not a small guy either. He averaged 5.7 yards a carry
Just is a
last
lot
year.
more lean. He looks
Yeah,
a lot more
yes.
lean.
And he's actually the older of the two. He's
Mhm.
going to be a senior this year. So I really don't mind who starts between the two. I kind of really do enjoy the running back by committee approach. It was always nice back in the day when you could see Chubb or even before him, Gurley
Yep.
be the bulk carrier. But I do really believe that by having them play less, it does save them for the NFL, which gives
It
them more
does.
an NFL playing career. And two, you always have a fresh back on there that's going to be almost as good as the last one that was out there or better at something else.
Yeah,
So-
I agree.
Exactly. Now that Blake has avoided the question, I'll say Kenny McIntosh.
Thank you, Hayden. I appreciate that.
I told y'all earlier I
You
enjoyed
politician?
Kendall. I said
Yeah.
Kendall Milton I
it's
enjoy
like you work in
more.
government, boy.
Kenny
Curious.
McIntosh for me.
Mhm.
Mostly because I think back to last season, like some of the big moments that he had, and just talk about passing the eye test. He just looks explosive. It looks just different when the ball's in his hands, and
Yeah.
it's fun to watch. So that's who I'm going to be looking forward to watching the most. But like I'm sure Kendall Milton will have his role to play as well, and they're going to split
Plus,
time.
wasn't it Kenny McIntosh that threw that halfback pass touchdown in the Michigan game? You don't remember that?
I couldn't tell you.
I think it was Kenny McIntosh. I don't think it was Zamir White or anybody like that.
That
Maybe
game was
it was
over before
You're
it
right.
started.
18-yard touchdown pass.
It to AD Mitchell. Hell yeah!
Real quick
What?
though, bringing
Yeah.
up that game, the weirdest thing to me was Jameer Sawyer, Justin Schaefer, who now plays for
the
Falcons.
Yep.
Wasn't he giving the Wolverines defensive lineman who went second overall the
Oh,
stuff?
no, that was Jamari Salyer.
It was Jamar Sawyer.
Yeah, Jamari
where's he
Salyer
at?
ate his lunch.
Is he playing for the Dogs again?
No.
Or
He
got
was one of the
drafted?
guys.
That's
that got
right.
drafted,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and that's another spot that is kind of an honorable mention there as far as
He went the 6th round.
To who?
The
Who
Chargers,
was it?
which
The
honestly, good grab by them. Like he was giving that guy the business, and I kind of think that's why that guy didn't go first overall, and Trayvon kind of did.
Right.
I don't know. On the biggest stage, he got beat down the whole game.
He did. He got shit on. So the next big spot let's talk about is defense. The defensive holes. I do want to give a quick shout out to the O line. There are some guys that we're going to need to replace that are great. Our center Van Pran is going to be the leader there this upcoming year. I think he's one of the best centers in the nation. But
What's his name?
His last name is Van Pran.
It's a good name.
Yeah.
That's a
I
good name.
fucking love that.
It's pretty dope, man. Yes.
Big name guy. Van
Yes.
Pran?
Van
Yes, please.
Pran. Yes, sir. No, he was
Anchor.
actually Cedric Van Pran is his full name.
Oh,
Cedric.
That's
Yes.
even better.
Yes.
Oh,
Cedric
yeah.
with an S, by the way. Yeah. So we're getting
Yeah.
a little
Ooh.
wild here.
Oh,
But
boy.
yeah,
6'4", 310.
yes, he's a big old boy, but I'm very excited about him. He's on the preseason watch list for the Remington Trophy, which is given out to the best center every year. So super excited about that.
He's gonna be
Really, I'm not
stud.
worried about the offensive line. Of all the things, if you could name a position group of all the teams that we watch in all of the sports that we pay attention to, I think the Georgia offensive line is the position group that I worry the least about, because throughout my lifetime, that's really one thing we've always had is a good offensive line. Some better than others, certainly. But yeah, that's really not why I'm not going to dive into that, because based off our recruiting, I think that's just going to be something that we just plug in some guys that are just going to be just as good.
I completely agree.
Yeah. So moving on, let's talk about the dudes on defense. So we have a guy named Zion Logue, who I wasn't as familiar with. I do know that he played. He's going to be the favorite to replace Jordan Davis. He's going to be that big nose tackle in the center.
6'5", 295.
Yes, he played in all 15 games last year, and he was a regular contributor in the rotation on that D line. And y'all know that Kirby Smart loves to get bodies in there to keep everybody fresh, even more so than running backs, which I also love. So I got another guy named Tramel Walthour. He's going to replace Trayvon Walker out there on the edge, and just like Logue, Walthour was in every game last year, and he contributed greatly. Um, Jalen Carter's back. He's going to be the other fella over there in that 3 technique.
And he'll probably be a top 5 pick this year in the draft or this coming
I think
year.
so. I think he's at least going to be a first round pick for sure. And so he was the guy that was over there with Devontae Wyatt last year. Devontae Wyatt being one of those first rounders. So he's obviously, he's the obvious person to fill that role. And then it gets a little more hairy when you go to the linebacking core, especially since if you guys see the little depth chart that I've got put up here, I love Kirby Smart's defense. I love how maybe complicated is not the right word, but just how unique it is, I guess I suppose I should say.
I mean, it's very detailed out. It's very,
yes,
I think part of that has to do.
Go ahead. Sorry. Well, no, what were you going to say?
Well, I'll just say like the way he has the depth chart so laid out, I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact that he's bringing a lot of 5-star recruits, and a lot of these players can just play. So he can almost plug and play. Exactly. He can almost just plug and play, rotate.
Yeah.
Kind of like now Nick Saban does every year.
Yes, exactly. So you've got these positions that a lot of people probably wouldn't be that familiar with, because with just a base level of the names for positions on the linebacking core. Most people know Mike is the middle linebacker. Mm-hmm. Most people know Will is the weak side linebacker, and Sam is the strong side linebacker. Well, if you look here at the depth chart, the names for our linebackers are Jack, Mac, Money, and Sam.
Money, baby.
Right. Yes. So Mac and Money are the 2 inside linebackers. Sam's the strong side backer. Jack is the kind of guy who's kind of like a hand down defensive end almost, depending on the way it works. And that's going to be Nolan Smith. He's returning for his senior year.
And he's arguably the best of the group.
Yes, I think he is the best.
I think he's the one I thought would be top 5. I don't know. Him and Jalen Carter will both go first round.
Yes.
And one of them could push for the top 5 for sure.
Yes. No, and I think Nolan Smith is the one that sacked Bryce Young on the last play of the national championship.
I think you're right.
They did the little sleep celebration. So that was also nice. It stuck in the back of my head. But the 2 guys to talk about, though, are filling Quay Walker's shoes. And while this other guy, while he wasn't a first-round draft pick, he was the heart and soul of the defense, and that's Nakobe Dean. Mm-hmm. And so we have to replace Dean and Quay Walker. The guy that's coming out of spring that looks the most like filling Quay Walker's shoes is a guy named Tresman Marshall. He's the one that they scheduled in number 1 on the depth chart, but he only saw action in 4 games last year. The other guys that would be competing for that spot would be Smile Mondon, who he did play a lot last year, but he played as a defensive back. And so they moved him down to linebacker. So we'll see. I don't know. He must have beefed up a little bit, but he saw action last year in all 15 games, but as a defensive back.
Yeah, he's 6'3", 220.
Yeah. So I think he was that he rotated in at safety last year. I'm not positive on that. Our boy Sam, the big soccer fan, he could maybe help us out on that one. We'll discuss later with that. But and then another guy named Xavier Sori, who is he's a redshirt freshman. He didn't play at all last year, obviously, because that was it. I caught that, Blake. Who he was redshirt last year, so he's also scheduled in to compete at that spot. So let's go on to the. Oh no! We didn't talk about the Nakobe Dean thing. Where did I put that?
Dumas.
Yes, Jamon Dumas. Dumas Johnson. There it is. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I don't know. I ordered this strange.
That's
in my
a tough
notes
name.
Here. It is Jamon Dumas Johnson. Yes. Or actually, I don't think it's Dumas. I think it's Dumas. Yeah, I think it's Jamon Dumas Johnson is how you pronounce that. UGA's website, their GeorgiaDogs.com, if you go to the football roster, they have a ear symbol next to everybody's name, and it actually says their name for you, so you know how to pronounce it.
That's actually pretty cool.
I found that
That's
very
very
helpful
useful.
today.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I think it's Jamon Dumas Johnson. Anyway, he's the guy that looks to step in to the role. He played in 14 games last year. He was a big contributor in the linebacking core. Didn't have a ton of stats. I think he had 22 total tackles all year, but he is got a lot of hype around him, or has a lot of hype around him. In fact, he was actually named to the Butkus Awards preseason watch list.
He had a pick six last year.
Yeah, he did. I think it was against. Did it say on there what you're looking at? I saw that on his stats.
Wait, so Butkus is linebacker and Remington is
Center.
offensive line. Oh, center specifically.
Just center. There's another trophy for the offensive line.
Butkus Remington.
Yeah.
Okay.
God damn.
He had it against Vanderbilt.
I just want to make sure. Butkus then Remington.
Oh wait, no, I'm
But,
wrong.
yeah.
UAB. He had it against UAB.
The old butt rim. That's my. That's how I remember it.
That's how you
But
remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's
It was
a good
against who?
UAB. Yep.
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
Conference USA.
Yes. Shout out Rick, UAB grad. But anyway, yeah, so it'll be really excited to see how Jamon does there in that role. But one guy moving on to the secondary,
Which I think is the weakest part of our defense this year. Personally,
it was last year, but they made plays when it counted. Obviously, you go watch the national championship game and anything like that. They were a talented core. We just had a lot of guys that were young, like the national championship game hero Keely Ringo. Everybody, that's really all anyone remembers about him is that play. But if you watch him throughout the year, he gave up a lot of big plays on long balls down the field. He also made a lot of good plays. I'm not saying that he's bad.
For sure.
I'm just looking for him to be a little more consistent this year. On the other side of the field, we got the sophomore Kamari Lassiter, who played a lot last year. We got William Poole in the star position, who played a lot last year. But the guy, and Tyke Smith is back at the free safety role.
Will you explain the star position to me?
Oh God, it's hard. So it's the thing that we actually had the star position when your favorite defensive coordinator of all time, Hayden Todd Grantham, was at UGA. Yeah, he runs the star position in his defense, but Kirby also has the star position, and it is like basically the way I've always thought of it. It's basically a hybrid between a safety and a linebacker.
Yep.
So it's almost in like when you have a star, you kind of are running a 4-2-5 defense almost, which a lot of people would call a nickel, except instead of having a nickel back out there, you have a star player, and the star is basically like I said, that hybrid between a safety and a linebacker.
Is
that kind of? Oh, sorry.
I always think of like safeties as a hybrid of cornerbacks and linebackers, and so it's like a hybrid of a hybrid.
It's a hybrid of a hybrid. Yes, exactly.
It's kind of reminds me of like what Buda Baker is for the Arizona Cardinals. Like I know he's a safety, but he oftentimes will play up a little closer to the line of scrimmage.
For sure, yeah, I could see that. That's a pretty good comparison, honestly. So we're gonna have to replace Lewis Seen at the strong safety role. And I'm really excited about the guy that's going to get in there because he was a starter last year. He just kind of rotated around. I think he played the star position. I may be wrong there, but either way, we're talking about Chris Smith. And most of us will remember Chris Smith because he was the guy that picked off DJ Uiagalelei in the
DJU.
Yes, in the first game of the season against Clemson, which turned out to be not as big of a win as we all thought.
But it's also the closest game of the season.
Yeah, it was the closest game.
Besides
of
the one we
season,
lost to Alabama.
Except for Alabama's, beating us in the SEC championship game. But, yeah, that was kind of weird. I think that maybe we were like I think we shook Clemson's confidence there. I think Clemson thought, okay, doesn't matter that what's-his-face is gone. Sunshine, what was his name? Trevor Lawrence. Doesn't matter that he's gone. Yeah. Doesn't matter that Travis Etienne's gone. We're going to reload because they think they're Bama, but they're not. They're not even Georgia. So
they enjoy being in the ACC for a reason.
They enjoy being there. That's a great point, Blake. You're exactly right. So they thought they were just going to reload. They thought little old Georgia's coming in. Kirby Smart, he thinks he's the next Saban. He's going to come in here, and we're just going to blow him out, and we're just going to show that we are the new Bama, the Bama of the ACC, which is just an oxymoron.
Mailman's at quarterback. Don't they know the post office are closed?
Yeah, exactly. All that stuff. And we just came in there and we just absolutely wrecked their offense. Our offense didn't get much going, but that's because we had the worst of two quarterbacks starting that game. Stetson Bennett wasn't the starter.
You're right. You're 100% right.
Yeah, so that probably had a lot to do with it. We had some dude that lost a record number of quarterback battles throughout his career. Even though, and of course I'm talking about JT Daniels, I wish him the best at West Virginia. I believe West Virginia's head coach came out last week and said that JT Daniels is the most talented quarterback they've ever had up there.
Well, Pat White is the most talented quarterback they've ever had there.
Yeah, Pat White blows JT Daniels out.
What the heck is that?
So that's just a terrible
coach
statement.
Ever watched West Virginia football?
Right, exactly. I don't know what the hell he was talking about there. Will Greer was better than JT.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So anyway, we don't have to talk about West Virginia football anymore. So basically, I think we shook Clemson's confidence a little bit that year. That led to them kind of having a shit year by their standards. That's certainly not up for debate. They did have that. So yeah, we're looking for Chris Smith to step into that role. Chris also was the guy that threw the key block to Spring Keely Ringo for his game-sealing pick six touchdown in the national championship game. So, like I said, that's the one I'm most confident about stepping in and not having much of a letdown there.
We just have young corners this year.
Exactly. Keely Ringo's gotta improve, which I think he absolutely will. Kamari Lassiter's got to improve, which I think he will. And then I feel pretty confident about both of the Smiths being at safety and William Poole at the star position.
For sure. And I think the one position, I mean, you love top receivers too, but the one position really that needs to be talked about when you're looking into next year is Stetson Bennett. Like, you just brought him up. Like, I think
the mailman, baby.
The mailman himself gets such a bad rep from Georgia fans. Like, I know a lot of people were hoping that he wouldn't come back this year, but the guy just threw for 29 touchdowns, only had 7 interceptions this last year. Like, completed 65% of his passes and won a national championship against Alabama.
But he's not he's not on like the NFL radar though, is he?
I don't think so. No, not really at all, basically because of his size. But one thing I will say, talk about his growth as a player from where he was when he started the Alabama game 2 years ago in Tuscaloosa. And that game when we were winning at halftime, and then they came out and they were like, oh, we're just going to send the whole house at this fucking walk-on here at quarterback and see what happens. And, yeah, they blew us out in the second half, and, you know, that kind of spelled the end at that point for Stetson at Georgia. And I thought he would never really play again. But boy, did he prove us all wrong. And specifically, and it sucks that it took this much time, he didn't win me over until the second half of the national championship game, to be honest with you. But that's because he went out there and he fucking balled. He shook over the early turnover in the first half.
Agreed.
He had another turnover or almost turnover where he was trying to run the ball and he dribbled the ball off the turf and it just happened to bounce back to him. That was weird. But he shook off the nerves and he went out there and balled out. He made some incredible throws to folks like A.D. Mitchell. An insanely good toss over the top on that Brock Bowers tight end screen touchdown. I mean, just balled out, and now I honestly am completely sold on him. He did it on the biggest stage.
To be fair, too, I think the play calling for a little bit actually kind of screwed him up in the national championship game. I could not stand some of the play calls we had on the offense side of the ball until they let him open it up and they let him throw the ball, like you're saying. I felt like there was a lot of plays where we were getting too cute with it. And I think they were afraid to give the ball over to Stetson to say, and they finally were like, you know what, you go win this. And he did.
I heard a great little thing on Twitter, because the only shit talking that you will hear, because Hayden was talking about how it's been quiet, and it has, but the only shit talking I've heard this offseason is people talking about, well, Nick Saban would have won back-to-back national championships if Jamison Williams hadn't got hurt, or if Josh Mechie hadn't got hurt. And I saw someone reply to that and say, well, first of all, UGA played without Jamison Williams or John Mechie for the entire year and won 14 games. Alabama couldn't even do it for one half of football. Honestly, great point. Great point. Yes.
Honestly, if we had receivers as good as Alabama's receivers, I think we'd blow them out of the water. I mean, I love all the hypotheticals. Like, well. Don't play revisionist.
We just like to
But-
stock up on tight ends instead.
That
Yeah.
we do.
Well, the
Best
Falcon-
tight end room in the nation, not
It's-
even close.
If the Super Bowl in 2016 stopped at halftime, Falcons would be Super Bowl winners.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Let's just
All
keep doing
those
that.
Things like that. But yeah, so and speaking of wide receivers, I think that's going to be a position group of strength for maybe the first time in my life. Honestly, I can't think of the last time we had
Well,
what I
can.
think is a good wide
AJ
receiver
Green
room.
and Muhammad
Masqua.
Masqua. Weren't they around the same time or no?
Yeah, I think maybe Masqua's
There's
senior
another
year
guy
was
too. Brown
was
around the same time.
as a receiver.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Reggie Brown back in the day? I think.
I have no idea.
I think Reggie Brown-
For all
back
those who
in the-
don't know,
Go
oh sorry, I was a Tech fan until I got to the University of Georgia, until I went to school there. So I'm a Georgia fan for the last 8 years.
So I'm basically, I've been a Georgia fan my entire life, but the AJ Green thing, yeah, I think AJ Green and Muhammad Masqua might have played 1 year together, but still, the issue there was we had no depth beyond them.
Oh, for
But
sure.
this year we got AD Mitchell, we got Blaylock if he can stay healthy, Kyaris Jackson is back as well. So yeah, I mean that's just three
you have
guys
5 stars at every position.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that I'm really excited about, to be honest with you. But I think it's time for us to look at the schedule, and let's hammer out some wins and losses here, because if you guys look at the schedule, it's pretty fucking easy. I mean, I don't want to pencil in too much right now, but the only ranked opponents on it as we speak are Oregon and Kentucky.
Yeah, isn't it crazy that Kentucky, that SEC Media Days was just last week, which is one of the reasons we're bringing Georgia up, is very relevant right now. And
Yes.
Kentucky was everyone's second pick to win the East behind
They
Georgia.
should be.
And they should be. Yes, I
They
just think it's
absolutely should
crazy
be.
how much has changed in the last 10 years for
Oh,
Kentucky
yeah.
to now.
Kentucky has swapped places with Florida and Tennessee. I mean, it's crazy.
With that being
Hold
said,
on.
though, I do think Florida actually has a really good quarterback and could surprise some people this year.
I can
And
see
Tennessee also will have an incredible offense as well.
that. Yeah, their
This
offense
is the
last
first
year
time.
was nuts.
This is the
What's
first
up?
time I'm seeing this schedule. This seems like the easiest schedule I've ever seen in my life.
Thank you. That's what
Yeah.
I was just thinking.
All right.
Yes.
So for all those who aren't looking at it right now, Oregon is our first opponent of the year, and they're ranked 22nd at the start of the year. And Kentucky's
Also-
our second to last, and they're ranked 18th. Those are the only 2 ranked opponents as of
Yeah.
the preseason, which I think will change. I could see a couple of these teams.
Yeah,
by
and
the time
it
we're playing
always
them.
does. You never
Yeah.
know. Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, Mississippi State, Georgia. Actually,
Not Georgia Tech. No, I think Florida,
Never
Tennessee,
mind.
Mississippi State, and Auburn. Those 4 that you just said, I think they all have a chance to be ranked,
Yes.
or have at least been ranked by the time we play them.
And not to look out, not to look too far. South Carolina. I actually love what Little Beamer is doing over there.
For sure.
Shane. I think he's a great coach.
Yep.
I don't know if he's got the recruiting available to him, because what Steve Spurrier was able, the reason he was successful at South Carolina, because he's Steve Spurrier, he was able to come into Georgia and go back into Florida and, pick recruits off. But I think that, that's obviously not happening because of what Kirby's done at UGA. So it's tough to tell with South Carolina.
But even a couple of years ago, we lost to South Carolina during Kirby's tenure here at UGA. Like, we've lost to South Carolina a year where we shouldn't have lost to them. I think we threw 3 interceptions in that game or something
Yeah,
like that.
Something
and
crazy. All right, so let's go pretty quick here.
Yeah.
We need to wrap up this segment. Let's go real fast. Let's hit Oregon. What do you guys think? Win, loss. That's Dan Lanning's first year. Auburn transfer. Bo Nix is going to be their starting quarterback. What are we thinking?
You go first, Hayden?
Win.
Yeah.
I'm agree win, but I think that's what I agree win, but I think it's gonna be like the Clemson game last year, where it's gonna be closer than people think because it's the first game of the season. There's a lot of new things. I think what helps us win this game and will help us win a lot of games is having the mailman return. I just think
Blake.
having that consistency at quarterback.
Blake, we said quick.
Yeah,
Sorry.
quick, buddy. Let's
That's the
go. All
one
right.
I have a caveat on.
All right. Sanford,
Win.
W,
Win.
right? All right. South Carolina, I think
3-0.
W again, right? Yeah, we're 3-0. Kent State,
4-0.
great program up there in Ohio. We're 4-0. Missouri we're going to Missouri.
Why are they in the
5-0, right?
SAC? Yeah, 5-0.
We're looking at 5-0. All right, we welcome Auburn in. Auburn's just not. They've got.
How is their coach still their coach?
That's the
6-0.
thing. Brian Harson's had like 2 coups. It's like Game of Thrones over there in Auburn.
It really is though.
Yeah, it is. So 6-0, right? By October 8th, we should be 6-0. Vanderbilt,
7-0.
All right, then we get a bye week before Florida. Billy Napier, his first year down there. It'll be interesting to see what he can do after Dan Mullen wrecked that culture.
I mean, that's one of those toss-up games too, only because it's a Florida-Georgia game. We don't know what Florida's going to look like. I know their quarterback's highly touted and as potential first-round pick this year. People are saying. Yes. I know
we're hearing it more and more.
People are saying
it. Yes, people are saying it.
But I'm going to say it's a win.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's a win. So what are we at? 8-0 right now.
Yeah.
Then we go to Tennessee comes to us. That offense will be a big test because of how fast they move.
Yes.
They were a big test last year until we finally figured it out and blew them out. But still, the defense not being as experienced is questionable to me. But again, we're thinking dub there, right?
Yeah, it's like you said earlier, our wide receivers being a strength on this team, running backs also being a strength on this team, offensive line being a strength on this team. I think our offense can keep up with any of these teams. Tennessee's defense isn't good enough. I don't believe. And so I think our defense makes the plays that their defense doesn't in that game. We win that game.
So 9-0. That's at home as well.
Yes, that's a great point. Last year we had to go
is something. That's a whole other beast.
That stadium's wild. So yeah, I think we're 9-0 there. We go to Mississippi State. We haven't been there in a long time.
10-0. I don't know enough about them yet. There's one of those teams that could be a surprise, like ranked top 18 at the time.
I think you're right, though. I think it's 10-0. So then we go to Kentucky, which the last time we played Kentucky at Kentucky was Hayden's wedding day. Shout out Hayden.
Shout out Hayden.
Shout out Kinsey.
Right there. Hayden and Kinsey right there. Big parts of Blursed, of course.
It's Aaron's birthday.
Oh, that's well. It not this date, but that day, yes.
Yeah.
That day was.
Now give us your social.
What's your credit card number again?
Yeah, right. Yeah, let's keep going. But yeah, I think that one will be a tough game. I think Mark Stoops has just done a phenomenal job at Kentucky, better than anybody has done there. Maybe in our lifetimes.
Yes, and since he's been there, he's made them competitive. Like since the get-go. But I think we win this game.
Yeah.
It's Kentucky.
I think it's hard to say otherwise. Hayden, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's little brother syndrome. Same thing with
exactly
Vanderbilt. It's not something you worry about until like you're losing in the third quarter.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Maybe it's the fourth quarter.
Point. Yes. So Georgia Tech, we don't really have to talk about that one. That's a dub.
They've been irrelevant for the last 3 years.
Yes.
But I'll say this, as easy as we could go 12-0 here, it wouldn't surprise me if we lost one of these games though.
Yeah, the trap game to me, the one that seems like a trap game is Kentucky. To me, it's Tennessee.
Same. I think Tennessee's a trap as well.
Yeah. So
right after Florida.
They have a really good offensive scheme. They're up tempo. They're quick. They're one of those that they don't huddle. They get on the ball. And
their quarterback's the top, like highly touted recruit.
Yes. So it'll be interesting to see how we do that come that game. But otherwise, yeah, I do think, it might seem like these guys are homers. They just went through the schedule and gave 12 wins. But no, I challenge you guys at home. Go look at the schedule. Tell me you don't see 12 wins on there.
I'll say my concern, like mostly is early season South Carolina, just because that's hurt us so much in the past.
It has. That's a good point.
And especially since they have a solid coach there now, they went through some tough years after Spurrier left.
For sure. Yes.
But yeah, now that they have Beamer there, you never know. You got a good coach. You can come back an entirely different team and develop talent.
I think if you look at the schedule, there's 12 games. I think 6 of them are easy wins. We win no matter what. And I think 6 of them you could say, well, I could see this happening and maybe we lose there. But overall, I feel comfortable saying we should go 12-0 this year. Like I wouldn't be disappointed if we went 11-1, depending on who we lost to and how we lost.
Right.
But we should go 12-0 this year. Now, do we stack up against Alabama? I don't know. Only time will tell. Like
it'll be tough to see Bryce Young in his second year for sure.
So it's going to come down to SEC championship, right?
Yeah.
So
yes.
You keep it close in the SEC championship. You don't even have to win. You're in again.
Yes, and we saw last year. You don't even have to keep it close. Yeah. Sometimes.
I mean, that's true. Yeah, we're the best team. And we proved it. So, I think.
Well, sorry, not to cut you off, Blake, but why don't we move out of the UGA segment and on to Blake? Yes, exactly. The old Hawks, old Birdman.
Oh, what? That was a bird?
That's how Shaquille O'Neal does it on NBA. That's how he does it every time.
That's right. It's terrible.
It's the dumbest
questionable. Very questionable.
It's not a hawk. No, so we're going to get into a little bit of Hawks news and then we'll transition around. It's going to be a little nice conversational segment today. First off, Trae Young and John Collins played in the Drew League over the weekend. John Collins fouled out. I think he's one of the first professionals to foul out in the Drew League. They said beforehand, they had an interview, they're just there to have fun. They weren't really caring to win. They had a nice alley-oop off the backboard to each other. Trae Young back off the backboard to JC on the slam down. I have a picture of him right here, and I'm going to enlarge it a little bit. A couple questions. Does he not look like he's lost a little bit of weight to you?
He does. He looks skinnier there, but
yeah,
could be the angle.
It could be. If anyone pulled up John Collins' Instagram, it's jcollins20_. You'll see his Drew League picture. He just looks a little smaller, and it could be because, this could be me reading way too far out of it here, but it could be because he isn't the best partner in crime to Clint Capella because they do a lot of similar things. And maybe he's trying to be a little more athletic, a little more agile. Maybe he's been working on his off-ball dribbling a little bit because maybe he's trying to maybe be more, not just a stretch for a shoot, but maybe be a little more playmaker of the four. It would really open up the Hawks a lot because it is a weird dynamic him with Capella right now. So also in this picture, you'll notice his finger's still swollen. That one that was hurt at the end of the year.
It is. You can see it. You can also see that his face looks 64 years old for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why or how.
Yeah, no, he does. He does look like an older man. Jonathan Baptist he got aged this offseason.
He did.
And maybe his finger's stressing him out. I don't know. It's weird to see the finger still.
Dude, look at that thing.
Yeah, it's still swollen.
Claw, man.
Yes.
And that prevented him from playing.
That's gotta hurt.
Prevented him from playing like the end of the season. And one of the reasons why he was not fully there during the playoffs. And it makes me worried that it's just going to stay like that. But I guess if he gets used to it, I don't know. Maybe we'll hold him back. Next thing, Clint Capella over the weekend, rocking dope dreads. Like his dreads look awesome. He's wearing a headband. He did a dribble through the legs, pass someone for a dunk. Yeah, he nutmegged someone. It was incredible. So watching Capella being in shape this year is just so encouraging because last year coming in the NBA season, he wasn't in shape. It was noticeable. He was not in shape until halfway through the season last year.
Right.
So I think it shows that I think the Hawks have a different mindset going in this year. I think they realize they screwed up this past year and they're ready. And not only are they ready, the front office is ready. Sharif Cooper, after laying a goose egg during the summer league, got waived over. So the way this works is after the season, the Hawks did extend Sharif Cooper their qualifying offer, which was for a two-way contract. So not even a committed deal. They had to do that right after the season if they wanted to keep him bird rights on the team. I think they gave him an ultimatum. You go to summer league, you ball out, we keep you. If not, we cut you. And he was awful in the summer league, which he shouldn't have been. He played a year in the G League and he also got NBA time. He should have been a star in the summer league if you're developing the way you should be. He averaged like 4 points, 3 assists. He shot like 20% from the field, just horrid numbers. And the fact that no one else extended him a qualifying offer or even offered him anything shows that the market for him is not that robust. Something interesting to me was you saw a lot of people on Hawks Twitter after he got waived say trying to caveat why they thought he should have played last year, trying to cover up because people last year were pushing for him to be for him to get minutes. And it was obvious he wasn't ready. And it just the fact he got waived, I think I had a lot of people trying to, change their tune a little bit or talk about, and some of them were doubling down oh, this is a big mistake. He's going to be a star. And it's even if he is a star one, it doesn't make much sense for him to be the backup behind Trae. He has a lot of the same weaknesses as Trae, to build around Trae if you want to. But two, if you can't put up numbers against the summer league opponents, then what are you doing?
Yeah, what are we doing?
What are we doing here? So no, I think it was great to watch him be waived because I think it shows you that this front office means business. They're here to play. They're not here to play. They're here to win. If you're not going to put up numbers, you're not going to stay on the team. The Hawks fun fact of the day for all of you is that DJM, so DeJounte Murray, he actually had the second most triple doubles last year of any player behind Jokic, who won the MVP. And he was one of 6 players last year to average 7 assists and 7 rebounds a game. Not to mention he averaged 20 points as well. So good
numbers.
Yeah, I think he averaged more rebounds than John Collins did.
He did. No, he did. And what's crazy. And what's crazy is I just think people are really undermining how great of a player he's going to be for the Hawks and how good of a fit he is on this team. It's going to be a little interesting how him and Trae bounce out the chemistry when they play together and also how they stagger minutes. But I think once they figure out how to mesh, I think he literally is the perfect addition.
It seems like maybe like DeJounte Murray coming into might have something to do with Sharif getting waived, just because they want the ball in DeJounte's hands, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Like,
the thing is too is,
and if he's not putting up numbers, then what's the point?
right? Because Sharif, his only positive he does have was his offensive side. He's a great facilitator, not much of a shooter, but kind of a finisher. He could finish at the rim. But if you can't even do those things, why do we even need you? And then if we have this, there is a question mark right now of behind Trey and DeJounte, though, who's your other ball handlers? Because the Aaron Holiday and Just Holly brought in aren't the biggest ball handlers. So some people think that we may use our last roster spot to bring in like a vet man, like point guard. I'd be interested to see if we get Kemba Walker on a vet man. There's been no talks of that. There's actually been talks of him going back to Charlotte, but wow, how cool would that be? Just Kemba Walker off the bench.
That would be cool
On a vet man.
Also, one thing not also, but I want to ask Blake, you said you used the term goose egg when you described Sharif Cooper's summer league performance. Was that just a generalization, or did he really not score at all?
He averaged, I think, 3 points and 4 assists, and he shot 19% from the field.
That is awful.
And when you're supposed to be, I get Jalen Johnson at play, but like the guy we drafted, Tyrese Martin, he averaged 14 a game. Chandre Brown, who's our other two-way contract player, he averaged 14 a game. Like, you're expected to at least put up those numbers.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he did nothing.
Crazy.
I think he out of all, I didn't watch it. I did listen. Shout out to Brad Rowland, Locked on Hawks podcast. Listen to it or follow him on Twitter. He's very insightful. He was being honest on this podcast and said he literally had like probably one good play in all 5 games that he played in the summer league. So it just wasn't shocking that they cut him. Actually, like it made sense. It's hard to end him after that.
Yeah.
In NBA news, outside of Hawks, there was KD rumors resurfaced this week. I just brought this up because it's very interesting. There was the rumor of KD to Boston. It would be what Boston offered. Apparently, it was Jaylen Brown, a first-round pick, and I can't remember the other player. The other player wasn't as important. Oh, actually, they were important. It was oh my God, what's his name? He played for San Antonio last year, and they traded for him right there at the deadline. A lot of Hawks fans wanted him. Boston sells it. Hold up.
Yeah, I'm not sure who we're talking about.
I got you though. No.
Yeah,
yeah.
David Robinson.
Derek White. Which it makes sense why they would trade Derek White because they got Malcolm Brogdon and they have Marcus Smart. But Derek White's a solid player, and he's someone I wanted the Hawks to get at the trade deadline.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Smart.
He's wicked schmat.
Wicked smart. What I thought was interesting about this though was when this surfaced. Apparently this rumor was old. Like this had been talked about weeks ago, this potential deal. And so what's interesting to me is how the NBA rumor mill works, how GMs and front offices strategically allow people to release information at certain times to see, like try to either drive up a price, restart negotiations, doing these things without reaching out themselves. I don't know. I just think it's very strategic, very smart. Obviously, New York would have leaked this information. Boston doesn't want to leak this information. They don't want Jaylen Brown knowing that he was on the trade market.
No, that's not a guy you want to get disgruntled.
No, he's an all-star. He averaged 24, 7, and 7 or something like that. Like he arguably had a better finals than Jason Tatum, who's their star. I think Jaylen Brown's not as good as Jason Tatum, but
also Jaylen Brown, Marietta native.
Yeah,
went to school right down the road from where I currently sit.
I will say too, now that he's upset and say this is looking forward if Dejounte Murray doesn't work out here, their contract ends the same time. Let's try bringing Jaylen Brown. Like I think he's another player who'd be perfect beside Trae Young. But back to the rumor mill in this, super strategic. What do we do? Well, the trade didn't work out, but we're kind of interested. And I think what the Nets are signaling is, all right, we've realized that we can't get what we want for KD. Obviously, you can't. And it's kind of like one of our friends said, Gray, shout out to Gray, said recently, when you're trying to trade for Angels pitcher
Shohei.
Yeah, Shohei. When you try to trade for Shohei,
6-Hey Ohtani.
Yeah, we can't trade 15% of the battery revenue for him, but you have to do something the reason you say something like that is because it's impossible to trade for a guy like that. Right. Same with KD. When your value is just so high, it makes it where the market's unrealistic for the guy because you actually lose too much in return to still be competitive. And I think what the Nets are realizing is, all right, you know what, we're actually not going to be able to get what we thought. So let's start these negotiations again. But at the same time, let's also screw over Boston a little bit during it. So now Boston's more inclined to want to trade Jaylen Brown. And if you're the Nets, Jaylen Brown's probably the best piece you could get for KD. So like,
oh, for sure.
It makes complete sense for them. I think Ben Simmons, if he comes back and plays with Jaylen Brown, I think it's a nasty two together. I just think they would complement each other really well. They both play great defense. Like obviously Trae Young is Ben Simmons' bane. So like, I'm not worried about us playing him, but any other team, that's a great defense. I just don't know how it'd be hard to beat those two. And I actually personally don't mind KD going to Boston because it doesn't really fix their biggest problem, in my opinion. I think one of Boston's biggest problems is they don't have a primary ball handler. I know they traded for Malcolm Brogdon. He has injury concerns. And I think in order to get KD, they're going to have to maybe move Marcus Smart, which ends up hurting their depth even more. Or they have to move like Grant Williams. So they're just going to ruin their depth too much. So I don't know. I don't think it makes Boston that much better. But when you can get KD, you obviously have to do it. So it's one of those things where it could win a championship from it, but it also could actually blow up in their face. Other rumor mirrors around. Other rumor around the NBA is Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks. It looks like they're in a little cold water on that right now, but the Knicks are the most likely to land him.
I mean, so what do you think you got to give up if you're the Knicks to get Donovan Mitchell? First off, before we even discuss the other part.
Oh man. I mean, they're going to have to get picks. They have a lot of picks they could give up. They would probably give up Cam Reddish. They'd give up some of their younger pieces. I mean, they have players they can move for him.
The thing is, I almost think you'd have to give up somebody like Mitchell Robinson. Not that they would want to.
Right. I get what you're saying. I mean, I don't know if the Knicks make the move because here's the thing. Trading for Donovan Mitchell for them, it has to be so delicate because they don't have too much they could give up and still be competitive. And I think we agree similarly on this. I don't think Donovan Mitchell is a player by himself that's going to win you a championship. I mean, it's obvious. He couldn't win over Rudy Gobert. Do I think him and RJ Barrett together is a good pairing? For sure. I think that's actually pretty interesting. Julius Randle, if he could learn to not shoot as often and actually just be more of a facilitator, I really do think it could be a scary starting lineup with Jalen Brunson, the starting point guard. You have Donovan Mitchell, the 2, RJ Barrett, the 3, Randall, the 4, and Mitchell Robinson, the 5. I actually think that's a really good starting lineup. I do.
Yes. On paper,
I think it's actually probably a top 4, top 5 in the East. It could be starting. After that, their depth would it falls off a lot.
Nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. It just falls off a lot. It'd be hard. They can maybe bring in some vets on minimum contracts. But I thought it was interesting. I would love to see Cam Reddish go to, the Jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to see Cam Reddish go out there because he really just needs to be on a team where he can just chunk the ball. Like he needs to be on a team where he can be the highest usage player. It'd be really the best way for him to find his true potential. As a Hawks fan, do either of these moves scare you?
No, not at all.
Yeah. I mean, the KD one.
The KD one more so for sure. Sorry. The Donovan Mitchell one was fresh on my mind.
But you're already scared of Boston anyways because they just went to the finals. So it doesn't change your opinion too much on Boston. Like they're already someone you're looking up to having to figure out how to beat. But I agree with you. The Donovan Mitchell, the Knicks, yes, it makes them competitive. It actually makes me more excited to play the Knicks. If Donovan Mitchell goes to the Knicks, I think the Hawks versus the Knicks would be fun to watch. Like that's primetime television. So
absolutely.
I think what the Hawks have up on both of those teams, and if the Boston makes that trade and if the Knicks makes that trade, we will have better depth than them. I still think the Hawks have great depth on this team.
They absolutely do.
But also, real quick, Donovan Mitchell was rumored. The Hawks were in the rumor mill for Donovan Mitchell again. I don't know why. I don't understand the fit. I think where we're at right now makes sense to just not make any more moves until the trade deadline during the season to make a push for the playoffs or push for the finals, whatever it may be that we think we might reach. I think you're moving John Collins is not this year. I think it might be next year. I think John Collins will be one of those players who forever be on the could potential leave, could not leave.
Right. I could see that.
Next, I don't want to spend too much time on Nick Wright's top 50 NBA players.
No.
The only thing I want to mention here is I thought his 1, 2, 3 were very interesting. It's going to be LeBron or Kareem is 1 and 2. He hasn't announced who that is yet. And Michael Jordan was 3. The reason I find this interesting is only because he kind of opened my eyes to how good Kareem really is. As someone who hasn't watched Kareem play, I didn't realize he went to 10 championships, won 6 of them. He was a finals MVP at 38. He won another one at 41. Like he had the longevity that LeBron's having. He scored more points than LeBron. I think LeBron's LeBron break his record.
I was about to say Kareem has
Yes.
scored more points than anyone.
Yeah, than anyone. LeBron will break his record.
Yeah,
but
yeah, for sure.
But still,
Kareem
like
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar also the guy that's in Airplane?
Yes, that is.
And he's an incredible actor in that movie. Like
I don't know. Incredible's a strong word, but
he kills me every time he's on. Like every time he's on the camera, he's killing me laughing. Like he's just so funny. So I don't know.
Fair. He's also in the Little Dicky show, by the way.
Yes.
What is that called?
Is he?
Dave.
Dave?
Yeah,
I need to watch that.
Yeah.
I need to
Season
listen to
2.
that.
Dave is so
Great.
dude. I cried at the end of season 2. Plug for FX there.
All right, I gotta watch Dave. I gotta watch.
Shout out Lil
It's so-
Dicky.
Yes.
Dude, FX has good shows. Atlanta is another good one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That one is more topical to this podcast.
For sure. Maybe we get into it one day. Well, Dicky, he's a sports fan, Phillies fan. He's also, I think, worn a Braves hat in one of his music videos before. So they're
Sick. We love
always
to see
segueing
that.
back. Yes.
Absolutely.
The thing that bothers me the most about his top 50 list is if you look at number 20, he has Luka Doncic. If you look at the rest of this list, like he has Luka Doncic ahead of Chris Paul.
Yeah.
And right behind Dwayne Wade. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't
It's
know what his
weird.
criteria is.
It seems all over the place because it's like it's not that I'm saying I have any trouble believing that Luka would be the 20th overall best player in the league when he's finished playing.
Hell, he could be top 10 when he finishes.
But
Like, I
right
can see
now,
that.
you can't. He's got him just a little below Dirk.
He's got to do something. Yeah, he's got to win something. He's got to. I don't understand. He has him ahead of people. So here's people who has him ahead of that. I just can't believe. David Robinson, John Stockton, James Harden. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I know James Harden kind of bummed this last year. He hasn't had Allen Iverson. He hasn't had a Kawhi Leonard. Like, Kawhi Leonard's a champion, a two-time champion.
Scottie Pippen. He's got him over.
Even Dwight Howard's done more in the NBA than Luka has so far. Like,
exactly.
that's what I'm saying.
Steve Nash.
Everyone on this list, besides Carmelo Anthony.
This might be a little. Sorry, Blake. I was just going to point this out before we move on. The biggest slight on this entire list is he has Dominique Wilkins at number 46. That is insane to me. Dominique needs to be top 15.
Where was Dominique Wilkins on NBA top 25?
I don't know. I think I also
Look it up while I talk some shit about Rick Barry.
Please do.
It really grabs your eye on this list because the graphic shows the left-hand column the first 25 and then the right-hand column the next 25. And so number 26 is Rick Barry, which I was like, what the fuck? And right behind him is Jason Kidd. And so no offense to you personally, Rick Barry, but let's not kid ourselves here.
Yeah, But I mean, Rick Barry was good.
Yeah, he was.
But
good,
I agree.
But he's not Jason Kidd.
No.
He's not AI.
God.
He's not Steve Nash. Jeez.
I actually can't figure out where he was on here.
Yeah, I can't see it either.
They make this very convoluted.
They do. But my point is, like, yeah, just Dominique, and also, you know, we got to stick up for the ATL man on the list. But Dominique is 33 spots below his teammate Moses Malone. They got Moses Malone at number 12 overall all time here, or Nick does, and they played together. And no one would ever say that Moses Malone was better than Dominique Wilkins when they played together.
Yeah, there's just a couple of things about this. I don't know. I don't know what his criteria was. I can agree with a lot of the stuff on here, but the biggest head scratcher to me has to be Luka at 20. If it's 10 years from now, Luka's at 20, you want to put him that high? Sure, go for it. But at the point we're in right now, he hasn't done anything. He's got a couple All-Stars and an All-NBA selection. I don't know. Going on.
I'm with you. Yeah.
We'll get into something else that really grinds my gears, and that's the game of Madden. Madden this week released their rankings for all their players. Some of the things I just wanted to headline was, so they put Falcons top 10 overall. I actually thought it was funny. So the top player for the Falcons is AJ Terrell, an 89 overall. I do think they slided him. I think he deserves to be in the 90s, but that's neither here nor there. But our two best players are two cornerbacks, AJ Terrell and Casey Hayward at 89 and 87. Kyle Pitts is third. I couldn't believe they put Calvin Ridley at 86 after just not playing last year. I don't understand that. I also thought Younghoe Koo at an 82 was disrespectful.
Yeah, he needs to be a little higher. Granted, he's a kicker, so I would be interested to see what other kickers are at.
I would wonder what Justin Tucker is at, because like I would say Justin Tucker is obviously number one.
I'll tell you
but
what Justin Tucker's at.
But Younghoe Koo has to be like what? I would say he's a top 5 kicker in the league. Maybe not fantasy wise, but when you're talking about just as a kicker.
Yeah. So Justin Tucker's a 90.
Yes. So like Koo should probably be like an 85 or 86. I don't know.
I know. I agree for sure.
That's how I saw it. I will say this. I was pretty proud. The Falcons did have 10 players at least over an 80. But once you go to the next page, we get right into the 70s. So it's just the top 10
we get
are
right
over an
into
80.
Nobody's a 90 though.
And nobody in 90. Yeah. No, but I mean, I think that's fair. I do. I think it's fair. I think Kyle Pitts 87 is not horrible. I thought Chris Lindstrom in 84 was kind of low, but
I like it though, as far as I mean, I felt like it at least shows that they like have their eyes open.
They realize that he's our best offensive lineman. Agreed. Right. All right. So now we're going to get into the quarterbacks. I had a couple issues with this. One, they have Tom Brady at 97. I know he threw the most yards last year. I just find it hard to believe that he's the number one, especially when Aaron Rodgers just won back-to-back MVPs. And then Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen also like killed in the playoffs. I don't know. I feel like that's weird.
Yeah.
I think Dak Prescott's too high. They have him at an 89. I feel like he's more of an 85 personally. And the fact that they have Dak Prescott ahead of Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson bothered me. And then Matthew Stafford, who won the Super Bowl, who had one of arguably his best years, they have him at 85 overall.
That's ridiculous.
I just don't understand what their criteria is on some of these things. And I know people could look, well, you have to look at each rating and how they put it, but it's like, well, how do they decide those things? Like, at least because Madden's not realistic at all, based off fantasy numbers, then at least like give me that. Like give me something where I could at least understand.
Right.
But I can't.
So the difference between Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers on this list, it appears that Tom Brady's kick power is a 43 and Aaron Rodgers is 15. And his kick accuracy is 28 to Aaron Rodgers 18. Where are they getting this information from? I would love to see a
kickoff
field goal. Yes. Oh my God.
That would
between
be
the
sick.
two of them.
That actually would be electric. And I think some of the biggest slights at the quarterback position have to be Kirk Cousins and Matt Ryan Kirk Cousins at 80 and Matt Ryan at 81, respectfully. They had the likes of Ryan Tannehill ahead of them. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. And then Kyler Murray, not that I disagree 100%, but they had him at 84, which I just thought was low. Because like Kyler Murray is one of those Madden players that you think of being electric in Madden because of high speed, high acceleration, can throw pretty accurate. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. And we moved to halfbacks. Derrick Henry is the lead at 97 overall. What does that man have to do to be at 99? I don't understand that. I don't understand how Christian McCaffrey can miss like the last 2 or 3 seasons in a row almost, and he's a 96 overall.
I mean, a lot of people are taking CMC like first overall still in fantasy.
In fantasy, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, you feel like you have to because of his talent, but like, why is Jonathan Taylor not a 96 overall or 97? Or, like, he just had an electric year. I like I said, there's just inconsistencies.
Yes, but that is Madden at its core.
It is. I mean, Cooper Kupp sets wide receiver records this past year. If we're going to move on to wide receivers, has the triple crown for the first time in I don't know how long, and he's only a 98. But they gave Devontae Adams a 99. Like, don't get me wrong, I believe Devontae Adams deserves a 99. But why can't Cooper Kupp get a 99 after a triple crown season?
It's not like only one player can have 99. Like, I don't know what they think.
And then DeAndre Hopkins, who didn't have that good of a year, is a 96 still. But Mike Evans has had 8 years in a row, 1,000 yards, is a 92.
I'll give my theory about why they do this kind of shit. So EA is a very corrupt company.
Absolutely.
Got very lucky to claim the NFL rights early on.
For sure.
And so there can be no competition.
Yes.
And so what they do, they want to filter everybody in to like the Ultimate League or whatever.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Yeah. Madden Ultimate Team.
Yeah, Ultimate Team. And so that gets people spending more money after they buy the game. And so what they're going to do, they're going to make these player ratings go up and down. And so if somebody has a good week, they'll shoot Josh Allen up to a 99, and then you'll get that card or whatever. And
right. Because that's the thing. They
pay for packages and that kind of shit.
And they don't even want you to play the GM mode. They want you to play the one where you're spending money on it. And we're going to get into that in just a second after we finish overall.
Also, I just want to throw this quick little story out real quick. Just to back up what Hayden just said. I hate that they do it. I get why they do it, though, because I worked with a guy a few years ago. He was considerably younger than me. He was a college kid, still lived at home. And he was one of those mommy and daddy's money type guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he told me, so he and I were both big into FIFA, and he was telling me that year's, I think it was like FIFA 20 was the one that was out that year, and the game had been we were in like December, and FIFA comes out in September each year.
Right.
No, towards the end, like September 30th, and so the game had only been out for a few months, and he told me that he had at that point already spent $800 on his parents' credit card of like FIFA Ultimate Team stuff.
What?
Did he feel satisfaction in that? That bring him?
I guess I told him that we weren't as good of friends after that, because I straight up told him I couldn't help myself. I was like, "You are the problem. Like, you are the reason why my favorite
sports games suck.
isn't that good, and
It's
you're the
every
reason
sports
why."
game now.
Yeah, exactly. Except for MLB The Show, and I know that the show has their own little card game system, but it's not promoted like the other ones are, and so I will give them that. But god damn, dude, it is so infuriating that for some
2K is
reason
very
people
guilty
enjoy
of that too.
Oh, they are. They used to be one of the shining lights. It used to be them and the show.
But they went into it too.
They went into it too. Now you can't even play a career.
Yeah,
let's
let's digress from Madden real quick, and let's just break this wide open, because Madden, I do want to. I don't even care if we keep talking about it, because really, it doesn't matter. This is more the subject I want to talk about. When it comes to sports video games, I think I can speak for all of us in this room when I say this. What I'm looking for is a realistic season experience. I want to be a GM. I want to
get
be
immersed in the in it.
I want to send a trade, and I not just figure out how the algorithm works and just slam a trade until it works. I want to actually have to figure out how to make the trade work. I want to
shout out Levi.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's ways to manipulate all of the systems, all the algorithms in order to get the best trades there are. And I get why they don't do it, because here's the thing. There's no money in that for them. They can't, because they just make, you know what I mean? Like, it costs a ton of money to develop this system. And then when we wouldn't spend any more money on it, it's not like it'd be.
It's like I also don't, I want to blame less EA, because they're just being greedy pieces of shit, because they realize, realize there's a market for it. And it's like, why should I stop at someone paying me $60 when they could pay me $2,000 for this game? So I get that. What I don't get is how you enjoy it as a player. Like, from what we were just talking about, the immersion aspect. It's like, how can I possibly be immersed in some fucking card game that's within Madden or within 2K or whatever? It's like,
when I'm not buying packs to get my players.
Yeah, it's like I'm not playing Yu-Gi-Oh! It's basically like a version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic the Gathering, but shittier and inside of a sports video game. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, there's no creativity with it. These are the best players. You have to get those best players, and the best way to get those players is by spending money to get them.
And I think in 2K, the cards have contract lengths. Like, you only get that player card for
I think you can also
get
contract extensions though, right?
Yeah, but you have to buy them like with in-game currency.
I remember the last 2K game that I got was probably 2 or 3 years ago. And I just enjoy career mode, like playing a single player.
So we all,
that's what we all
and
do.
like, people are like 99s immediately.
Oh,
and
the
like,
my
like
player,
a 60, yeah. So like, unless you pay like $200, you're just gonna have a shitty player that takes like 10 years to develop.
Yeah,
I thought that was the worst part about 2K too. Was there actually is a way to cheese that though? If you get to like the goal to goal or something like that, like there's a couple of perks you can unlock early that make the game almost broken, where you're 60 but you can still do a bunch of cool moves. But stupid, it's bad. It's bad. It's not bad gameplay.
And within that, it's like, you have that whole preseason thing that you do. Depending on what 2K you're playing, you either have a high school and a college season, or you do a combine, and that that based off your performance there is how high you get drafted. How does it make sense that you could be like the 4th overall draft pick and then be a 65? Or something like that.
It doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
And the other thing that kills me about this stuff is that, especially 2K, because they made it online. Like, that's the worst thing about career mode. Don't make it online. I want to do this by myself. Like, I want to be my own career by myself. But the fact that they've put all their attention to the money making side made it where now there's no reason for me to buy another Madden again, because they haven't changed the way like my GMs worked for the last 10 years. I could just update the newest roster by someone that's pre-made roster. Like, why do I need the new Madden if you're not actually going to make the game modes I enjoy
if you're not going to
better?
change it. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I will say about the newest 2K, the Legendary Edition, which listen to this price tag is like 200 and something. Like, wait, let's see how much. It's $150, I think. But listen, all right, yes, NBA 2K23 Championship Edition. It's $150. It comes with like the season pass, annual pass that gives you like a bunch of stuff towards the My Team. But it also gives you League Pass actually for the whole NBA season, which is actually a discount on NBA League Pass because you get the game and the League Pass. I don't hate that.
No,
I don't hate that.
I mean,
because it gives you My Team credit stuff. It gives you the League Pass for the NBA, and it gives you the video game for 150. And I think the League Pass by itself is over 100. So I don't actually hate that one. I still don't know if I'd play the game enough for it to be worth buying.
Right.
Yeah.
But I did like how the NBA actually kind of went more in with it. What bothers me the most, and I think this is the biggest problem, is the fact they do exclusive rights for these games.
Yeah.
Like, you need to leave it open to competition because competition makes better games.
There is light at the end of the tunnel there. And FIFA, my favorite sports game, is experiencing that right now. I don't know if y'all have seen, but the upcoming FIFA will be FIFA 23, and then that'll be the last FIFA for the foreseeable future because they lost the rights. They lost the rights to they lost the licensing rights to PES, Pro Evolution Soccer, and so EA isn't going to stop making soccer games, of course, but they're going to be called EAFC. Starting next season. Yes.
I like to imagine there's like one guy that was responsible for that at EA. He's just like sitting in an office.
That was a thing.
It's been sitting on his desk for 10 years. And he's like, oh, fuck.
I was supposed to get this renewed.
The one thing.
Shit. Oh,
I think what helps FIFA more than other sports game is a lot of these European countries, and FIFA is like probably the most internationally popular of all of these.
Oh,
for sure.
It's huge over there.
Is that gambling in a lot of these countries are actually illegal, and they consider the My Team stuff gambling
because it is.
It is gambling. Yeah. So I think we may eventually see an outlaw of it, and you might lead toward, you know, how the battle pass works for like Fortnite and stuff like that. Like you work your way through a battle pass.
Right.
I think they may end up sort of doing stuff like battle pass in games like that. I don't know how to look yet, but I think that could be the future and more
the season pass type stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do know that now it's kind of weird. I'm not disagreeing with you at all, but I know that England is very pro betting. Like they are, like the UK has almost no restrictions. It's actually kind of wild watching. You know, I'm a big Premier League fan, and they'll just have betting commercials
at the stadium.
At the stadium, like they'll have team because as most people know that watch soccer, since they don't have commercials on during the game, they have to put sponsors on their jerseys or their kits, if you will. And a lot of teams' kit sponsors are betting websites. So it's just kind of bizarre to see from a American standpoint.
No, for sure. I mean, I don't know. I think it's crazy. The last thing I want to end it at is I want to tell you my favorite sports video game. Yeah. And it's actually Rocket League. I know it's
that's a lot of people probably I love it.
Yeah, Rocket League's my favorite because it has the most replayability. It doesn't have any of that baby back bullshit. It's free to play. And it just, it's enjoyable. It's enjoyable if I'm playing a season mode, or it's enjoyable if I'm playing with friends. It's just kind of fun. Job. And the game doesn't have a lot of stupid bugs or things you can. Do I wish that was my favorite sports game? No, I wish I could have played one of these other ones.
Yeah. Also, shout out Retro Bowl too.
Yeah. Oh, Retro Bowl is amazing. And also like the Forza games, if you like racing, they're pretty good too. So it's sad that the best sports games are all racing when there's a lot of fun sports I enjoy. So
I guess I got to throw out my favorite sports game, Mario Tennis. On Nintendo 64. Never lost.
Great call. Hey, never lost.
You know what else is good? Like their 3v3 game they had, and Super Strikers was good too. Mario Sonic at the Olympic Games.
Mario Baseball.
I'll be honest, Mario's got a lot of good sports games. Good call there.
Yeah, had to bring that up, but we want to move along to the Blursed of the week.
It's
not going to be the longest Blursed of the week, but I'll say Blake's segment last week on the Falcons and the longevity of the franchise and the struggles. Yes. He hit on a nerve and really brought something straight to the forefront of my mind. It's Michael Vick, and he talked about him a little bit, and he is just a definition of Blursed. And growing up in Georgia, like there's just so many memories, especially like we were in like elementary and middle school during that time when he got started. What do you think of, Blake, when you think of Michael Vick?
So Michael Vick was the first NFL jersey I had ever gotten. I want to say Michael Vick was quarterback right when I was starting to get Yeah, same. Okay, cool. Yeah, it was the quarterback of the Falcons, which is Atlanta's team, right when I was getting into sports, like really into football. Like I was like, oh, this is actually fun to watch because baseball was my first sport I really liked, and then football came next. And so what I remember was my dad absolutely loved them. He was like, he might be the reason Falcons start winning. Like, and like we talked about last week, as an older Falcons fan, just years of misery. So like he was an electric player, and like I think I can speak for a lot of Atlanta fans. You're excited to have him, and his legacy will always be known as what could have happened, though.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, what do you got?
I can't agree more. I mean, it's I remember I was as a fledgling, not only fan but person, he was my favorite athlete for quite some time. I loved him. I would defend him to the death against anyone that talked shit about his throwing ability or that he couldn't, or that he was immature, he couldn't win the big game or whatever, which at the time I thought was all false. And I think the one that was definitely the most true was he was immature. That was unfortunately the case.
And I think actually recently with the whole Kyler Murray deal and how they had to sign it, can we just say time out real quick? Arizona Cardinals, if you have to put that in your contract, shame on you for giving the guy the money. Like, everyone's
Wait,
trying to shame.
what was it?
So
Blake's
Blake's talking about that Kyler Murray has a mandatory 4 hours of study, like of film in his contract.
without distraction. It specifically mentions video games, like no video games, no playing on an iPad, no internet, 4 hours every week.
That's a bad look.
Goddamn.
But here's my thing, though.
I was thinking my nephew is 3 years old. No iPad.
iPad, no screen time. People are giving Kyler shit for it, but it's like, give the Cardinals shit. You paid the guy the money. You're willing to pay them $50 million a year to a guy you don't even trust to study on his own. Shame on you. Shame on. Let him play out the contract, and if he doesn't play, then let some other team take. I don't know. My thing on that is it's more shame on the team than it is on Kyler. If Kyler wants to not care as much and play COD when COD comes out, he has his own prerogative. Like,
I get your point, Blake. And
as a fan, it'd piss me off.
Yes, I want to agree to that, but I do still think that it's more on Kyler because it's like, bro, whether you realize it or not, you are in the professional world now. It may not seem like it because you have a job that very few people have, but it is a job. It's how you put food on the table. I mean,
I just think it's a worse look for the team than it is for Kyler, because I can understand where Kyler's coming from. But the reason I bring Kyler up is because Mike Vick was the same exact way. He was the last one into practice, first one out. Like to speak to the maturity side,
I respect the hell out of that.
That was Mike Vick in a nutshell.
As a slacker myself, I respect the hell out of that. Yeah, you're damn right.
Also, speaking of Kyler and video games, there's a graph showing Kyler how good he is fantasy-wise or how good he is as a quarterback through the season. Every year when Call of Duty comes out, it drops for like 2 or 3 weeks and then goes back up. It's been every year like clockwork.
I did not know that.
It could be something else, like the strength of schedule at that time, but it's been every year like clockwork.
Call of Duty can change your life. Shout out Brady.
Yeah,
that'd be rad.
So almost a pro gamer himself, by the way.
So Michael Vick, to me, in 6th grade, I got a fat head, if you guys remember those. I had a Michael Vick fat head in my room, which was like this really awesome poster that was like life size, like looked kind of 3D. So I just had a huge Michael Vick in my room, and it's fucking great. Also, I had a Michael Vick jersey. Madden 2004 comes to mind. You play
greatest Madden
he was
player
on the
of all
cover.
time.
And
he is.
He was probably one of the first players that really like broke the game because you could just literally run end zone to end zone in circles and nobody could catch him.
You could run laps.
Speaking of Brady that you mentioned earlier, he broke later Maddens when Michael Vick was a Jet.
And he
still broke the game.
He was like a 68 overall.
Yeah, and he would put up.
I think he broke it in the way that it wasn't known for because his arm strength was phenomenal. And I think that's what was still there. I remember Brady telling me it was like he had like a 68 overall Mike Vick and then like Brandon Cooks at wide receiver.
Yeah, and he throw
it was just like a bomb every single play.
God, Madden sucks.
Man. Yeah, Madden is terrible.
Even then, they still haven't figured it out.
Nope.
And then last thing I think of that, I mean, obviously Vick playing, but I think of the Vick Experience commercial. Do you guys remember that?
Oh, those were so cool.
I don't know if I do.
It was like a animatronic ride where you got in it. It was like it's a Six Flags or something.
Yeah, exactly. And it made you
you need to look that up.
I'll look it up.
It was cool.
If you haven't seen that commercial, definitely look it up. It's it's essentially they put you in a roller coaster seat and it like spins you around like you're playing like Michael Vick, because that was just it was crazy the way he played. Nobody had ever seen anything like it really on the football field. So that's kind of the stuff that comes to mind.
Oh, it's like an actual roller coaster.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was a really cool commercial. It made you want that to be real.
Speaking of no one having seen anything like it, and Hayden, you might be touching on this sooner or later if you are. I'm sorry, but I believe in Canton, Ohio, at the Professional Football Hall of Fame, in a case are the shoes that he wore in the playoffs the year that he beat Minnesota in the Astrodome. And the reason for that is he did not wear cleats. He wore like turf shoes. Like he wore like basically like those things that baseball
Like
players.
trainers?
Yeah, like basically kind of like trainers. He wore them that game.
Wow.
And yeah. And he has that legendary play. Excuse me. He has that legendary play where he scrambles for a touchdown and he runs in between two Viking defenders who tackle each other.
Yeah.
And then he walks into the end zone for the win.
I didn't know he wasn't wearing cleats. It's like I used to think of like if you're playing in high school and you're like, oh shit, I forgot my cleats. Let me get this. Let me get this fourth string player's cleats real quick.
He did it in the second round of the playoffs.
Wow, in the NFL on the
NFL.
in the highest.
I think
stage.
Minnesota was the favorite to win the Super Bowl that year, if I'm not
they were
mistaken.
really good. That was like I
that
think
was a
like
mistake
Dante
in itself.
Culpepper when he was in his prime and shit
Real
like
quick,
that.
just finish that commercial. That's one of the most electric commercials I've ever watched
it
in
was
my entire
great.
life.
Yeah,
And I want to experience the Mike Vick experience now. Let me on that ride.
Get a developer. We can put it in VR.
VR.
That'll be the first official ride of Blursed Sports.
So let's get into Vick's timeline here, because it's a little up and down as Blursed may be at times. So he's born and raised in Virginia. He had a pretty successful high school career. Got a scholarship to Virginia Tech. He was redshirted his first year in 1998. 99, Vick led the Hokies to the national championship game versus Florida State. Even though his stats weren't like astronomical, he still led a 21-point comeback at one point during the game and took a lead against Florida State, who was a powerhouse at the time. They ended up losing, but they kind of got him on the national stage. He ended up being third place in the Heisman voting that year, which was tied for the youngest ever for a freshman with our future senator of Georgia, Herschel Walker.
I have no
Are you
comment.
guys still there?
Wait, no,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm still there. I heard that comment. I don't.
I
thought you guys froze for a second.
No,
I looked
no,
over.
I'm
No
here.
one's moving.
I'm here. I was actually looking up to make sure the shoe thing was right, and it is. And they said they were a pair of Air Jordan trainers.
All right. Thought my
But
ear
yes.
got out. I was going to have to start over.
No, you're good. But yeah,
No,
future
you're-
senator, unfortunately, Herschel Walker.
Yes.
Sad to
Oh,
say it.
boy.
CTE.
I was trying to respond like Herschel Walker would to a question.
That's true.
That's what you were
We
doing.
both had very Herschel Walker moments there.
Got to boot you guys back up.
Yeah.
All right. So in Vick's sophomore year, he was injured for a few games. One of those was against Miami, unfortunately, who beat the Hokies and ended their title hopes because that was before the playoff. So if you lose one game, you're fucked.
Yep.
True.
Which is crazy that was the system for I don't even know how long.
And some people miss old college football. It's crazy. It blows my mind.
Oh, God. So, anyways, after sophomore season, Vick decided to join or enter the draft largely because of his background. His family was still living in a 3-bedroom apartment. And he wanted to get his mom a house and a car. So,
Yeah.
that tells you a little bit about his background and kind of stuff that he had to
Absolutely.
battle through.
For sure.
So, coming into the draft, San Diego had the number 1 overall pick, and they traded it to the Falcons for a 2001 first round and third round pick.
That's it.
That was it.
Is that crazy?
That's fucking insane.
What does a
didn't know
number
that
1
that was
overall
all.
pick for a quarterback cost now?
Oh,
Inflation, man.
Oh
in this
my-
economy? You
in
guys are
this
kidding me.
economy?
It
Yeah,
would-
you're gonna have to give up the whole fucking.
You're
farm.
giving me your
This-
first round pick for the next 3 drafts.
Yes.
dude. Yeah,
That's-
At least.
How cheap is a first and a third for Michael Vick?
that is crazy.
I saw that. I did a double take. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, no, that is bad.
Certainly not. So, also a side note, the Rockies actually drafted Michael Vick
Yes.
in 2000, even though he hadn't played since middle school.
Middle school. I did know that.
which
yeah.
is pretty crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, shout out to the one guy that was about to get drafted with the last pick of the MLB draft in the 50th round that didn't get picked because the Rockies picked a football player.
I'm so
Holler at
upset.
your boy. He's a financial planner now. What's up?
Yeah.
So, 2002 season is when Vick really got his start. With 15 starts that year, he set a record for the most rushing yards in a single game by a quarterback with 173 yards.
Does he still hold that record?
No, that was the record at the time. But
okay.
I think maybe Lamar beat that one. But
I think so, yeah.
that was the year that they beat the Packers in Green Bay. That was their first ever, the Packers' first ever loss in Green Bay in the playoffs, I think.
That's still crazy. No, Michael Vick still has that record.
Oh, really?
Wow. Oh, yes. Yes.
No, yes.
Which is it? Let's land on one.
Wait, this says something different than what you have, actually.
Which what?
This says Lamar Jackson had the most rushing yards by quarterback in a game. Us 2021. No, I don't care about that. Mike Vick has the most rushing yards by quarterback in a game with 173 yards versus the Vikings on December 1st, 2002. Yes, he has.
Right.
Oh, sorry. So that's when he wore those Air Jordans, by the way.
Really try to call me out there.
Oh, actually,
Smooth
it's not
move,
right anymore.
Dick.
Wow, this
What?
was the hardest thing to find. Kaepernick actually beat it in 2013 with 181 rushing yards in the 2012 NFC divisional game. So regular season versus
At the
postseason.
time, it was the record.
Oh yeah, I wasn't trying to say. I was asking you if it still holds.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Well, I didn't do that much research. That's just asking too much.
Calm
I was
down
just
there,
curious myself if it was. He actually has the second and third most.
All right. So, back to it. Yeah, that was the year that Falcons lost to the Eagles in the NFC divisional round. Vick did make the Pro Bowl, though he broke his fibula during the preseason of 2003, which I have to imagine around that time is when quarterbacks kind of stopped playing in preseason games, right?
Right.
Had to be.
I think it was for sure, yeah.
So, I mean, because that's a huge, just out for the year or most of the year.
Fucking ridiculous.
You just lose an entire season.
Yep.
2004, Falcons lost it in the conference championship game to the Eagles. Another Pro Bowl. 2005, missed the playoffs. Another Pro Bowl. 2006 is the year that he rushed for over 1,000 yards as a quarterback, and first quarterback to ever do that.
Yep.
Which is super impressive.
But not
And
Pro Bowl. Curious.
Yeah, maybe. He might have been. I might have just missed that in the notes.
No, it could have. I mean, very easily, other quarterbacks could have had better years. Just curious at the year he does get 1,000 yards.
He may have been.
I'll look.
You might need to Google. But I did think it was interesting that Falcons went 7-9 that year, even with all that success that he had rushing.
Yeah.
And they missed the playoffs.
That's
So,
bad.
It's tough. Tough to wrap up on. I mean, it's crazy because you're right in the prime of Vick's career, and you think that you're a piece away, and then out of nowhere, Vick gets suspended for dogfighting. He is incarcerated and he goes to jail for 2 years.
Yeah. In Leavenworth, by the way, which is like one of the, as far as I know, one of the worst federal prisons you could be sent to.
Yikes. Yeah, so the dogfighting, as a dog lover myself, this is like the very cursed side because it's like,
oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, cross.
you don't like to think about it, how bad.
And
that
brought
is.
brought it upon himself, obviously.
Yeah. Yep. So
here were your Pro Bowl quarterbacks that year: Vince Young, his rookie season; Tony Romo, Phillip Rivers, Carson Palmer, Mark Bulger, Peyton Manning, and Drew Brees.
Oh, so he wasn't.
Wow.
No, Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers both made the Pro Bowl that year. That's pretty cool too.
That's wild.
So 2009, Vick is out of prison, and the Falcons end up releasing him because PR.
Yeah, you can't bring him back.
For sure.
Cannot
So
bring him back.
he's quickly picked up by the Eagles. In 2010, McNabb gets traded to the Redskins, the then Redskins.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Because they thought Kevin Kolb was the guy.
Didn't he throw like 5 touchdowns
in
in a game? Or
I think he did, and that's like that convinced them all that he was going to be something special. But
Yeah.
yeah,
The
then
Nick
he got
Foles
injured.
effect.
Yeah, exactly. And well, he's going to come in a second. Yeah, but that put Vick back in the spotlight in 2010, and he made another Pro Bowl with the Eagles, and it was electric, and everybody was just like, he's back, and it was just fun to watch again. But yeah, and then 2011, he ended up the Eagles went up 8-8, and then the rest of his career really was QB competitions with Nick Foles, Kevin Kolb,
Yes.
players of that ilk. So it was a steep decline.
I think also there's a little mini blurst within here. I believe Matthew Berry says that his worst prediction of all time was the year after the second year he was with the Eagles. That in the preseason, Matthew Berry had him ranked as the number one best fantasy player going
Mike
into
Vick?
that season. Yeah, Mike Vick.
Oof.
And that did not pan out correctly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, at least it wasn't when he was with the Jets. So he was with the Jets, and he ended up starting 3 games there. And then he was like a backup on the Steelers for a year. So he kind of bounced around there as the quarterbacks do. But, you know, you always look back at the years that he was in jail. And if he isn't in jail, you think what could have been with the Falcons.
For sure. I mean, I don't
Absolutely.
know. We are talking about the Falcons, so I don't know if he ever wins the big game with us. But, I mean, what I'm trying to say, his complete numbers would have just been so much more as Pro Bowl appearances. I mean, he probably would go down like as a Hall of Fame quarterback, maybe just based on statistics alone.
Yeah, based on the records he has, Pro Bowl appearances.
Yes,
maybe an MVP year in there. Too.
Yeah,
he could. I mean, if he finally got a defense to play with him, they actually might have made a run.
But I think you could also say that wouldn't have happened due to his immaturity, and that he didn't really mature until he had all that legal, all that stuff. And,
yes.
And so I think I even saw him say in an interview in Philadelphia that until he got to Philadelphia, that was the first time that he actually like tried. So,
which is crazy.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Ridiculous amount of talent.
What's kind of cool to me too is though that he's actually come back to Atlanta and tried to not that he'll ever be who he was to Atlanta fans, but he's actually tried to make amends and become at least. You've seen him more in Atlanta stuff. Like he's actually been in some interviews for Falcon stuff, and he's actually been more present with the team. So it's interesting.
I think we would all agree that something like dogfighting is inexcusable.
Yes,
but it's at least good to see that he's tried to repair his image. And I'm not sure that if who's only Mike Vick knows whether that's just for his image, or if it's because he actually is contrite and wants to just actually give back to society. But either way, I think it's good.
Could y'all imagine if he did this when Twitter was a thing? Like, do you think he'd ever come back from that? Do you think he would ever have gone back in the?
I don't know.
Because cancel culture, which don't get me wrong,
it wasn't around back then.
It wasn't around back then. So like, I think cancel culture in some ways is very toxic, and you don't give people the chance to seek forgiveness and to, like you said, make amends for what they did wrong. And like you said, you only they know. And so for us, it's not for us to determine whether they've changed or not. It's for us to give someone a second chance or not. But if that happened back when Twitter was around, I don't know if you'd ever come back from it.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Yeah. So that's your downtrodden blurst of the week.
Yes.
Because that's the what if of what would have been in Atlanta and how long Vick would have been there, and really changed the course of Falcons history and completely opened the door for a new regime to come in.
But it opened the door for the most successful quarterback in franchise history.
Yeah, and period of time for the Falcons in general.
So out of darkness came
Blursed
life. Yes. Yeah, it really was Blursed every way you look at it. So
we are the Phoenix City, folks. Okay, out of the ashes we rise.
You heard it here first. Phoenix
the
Sports.
Big Apple.
Yes.
Yep. That's
Phoenix
us.
Sports.
So now that we're wrapping up, guys, you got anything to look ahead to this next week in particular?
I do. So in the WNBA, there's only 12 teams. I believe there's only 12. Correct me if I'm wrong. And 8 of those teams do make the playoffs. And
really, I did not know that.
Yeah, wow. And as of right now, Atlanta Dream could be the 8th seed, even with a losing record. But the interesting part about this is that we've actually come on strong as of late. We're a scary defensive team. When we're trying to play defense, we're the best defensive team in the WNBA. And when we're hitting threes, there's not a team that can beat us. So hearing around the league, even like the Las Vegas Aces, who are the number one team right now, or the Chicago Sky, who play in the Constructors Championship Cup tonight, which is like a mini season tournament, kind of like what NBA is doing next year. A lot of those fans are actually scared to play the dream in the playoffs because of just how good we are on defense and how if we do get hot, we could be a team that makes a run. So just keep your eyes out.
Sounds like we need to score buckets and not let them score buckets.
Not let them score buckets. Yes.
Yeah. Aaron, what you got?
Honestly, not much. Normally at this part of the segment or part of the show, I like to talk about Atlanta United. I'm not going to do that. So I just want to say that the Braves are winning 5-0 right now as we record this, and that old Dansby's 3 for 4.
He was
3 for 2. My word.
Yeah, by the hell.
That's how hot he is right now.
Yes, he's 3 for 2. He's scored twice. No ribbies, but he's gotten in. So yeah, I just feel like the Braves are getting back on track to avoid that 3-game losing streak we were talking about.
So I'll throw out that the trade deadline is a week away for Major League Baseball. Keep an eye on what teams are going to fall out of this race. If the Giants have a losing week, maybe
the pros come
Jock
home.
Peterson, and we get those pearly whites back here in Atlanta because even more so than like a good righty bat, if you have the right team personality as a whole and everything fits together, that's just really what Jock brings to the table, and he makes everything mesh. So if that were the case, I would be pretty excited about
That'd
it.
That'd be cool.
Keep an eye out for that. And
Jock's my favorite baseball player. If he comes back, I mean, that's King coming home.
By the way, just a little update, a little prediction. We were talking about Eddie Rosario struggling. He's got an RBI tonight. So
here we go. Well, that's good to see.
Good to see. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Please leave us reviews, good ones, hopefully. Tell your friends and family, coworkers, anybody you know that likes Atlanta sports. Skip around. You don't have to listen to every segment.
No.
It's a long show, so skip around to what you like. And
if you don't like Atlanta sports, hear us out. Maybe you can become a fan.
Yeah, maybe you're an Atlanta fan.
Come on.
This is a big city of folks that aren't from here.
We're a transplant city,
Yeah, so
in.
join the bandwagon. It's a good
great
time.
way to learn about Atlanta sports for sure.
Absolutely.
We'll give you a lot of information. So we want to give a special shout out to our friend Oh No that put our music together. Check them out on our link tree. And special shout out to Jess and Kinsey for the work that they do on our pod as well.
Yes.
And a special shout out to my co-hosts here, my good friends.
Hey, shout out to you, Hayden.
I really enjoy getting to chat through the week and doing this every week.
Yes,
my favorite actually part of the week is right before the podcast when I want to talk sports with y'all and y'all tell me to shut up and save it for the podcast. That's my favorite moment.
Just before we started recording this, when Blake and I started talking about Julio Jones, and Hayden was like, "Stop that."
Fuck,
save it for the cast.
That can be a whole blur.
No, we mentioned Julio.
No, yeah.
Okay, we did. All right.
Yeah, but we could do a whole blur.
All right, everybody, we're rambling on. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
See you, everyone.